can skip this one. We will go to the Michigan hearings.
Times, as you've alleged, and he said possibly up to 30,000 times, definitely 1,000.
Then on October, then you were transferred and you went for training.
Yeah, on September 30th from 9
Bye, Train Mod.
to 11:30 p.m. Then also on October 1st, those were the 2 days I was sent for training at Wayne County Community College from 9 to 11:30 morning session. Then afternoon you will come back to the election headquarters.
And what do you remember of your training? What were you told during the training?
It was not good.
It was not good.
No.
Well, how wasn't it good?
I mean, first of all, when I was at the Wayne County Community College from 9 to 11:30, it's about, I would say, around 20 to 25 people. There were two groups, so I was with the second group. The first group training was from September 28 and 29. First group, I am with the second group.
Will we get
September
social
29,
democracy in our
October
lifetime?
1st. About, I would say
Maybe.
around 20,
I hope we get
25
market
people.
socialism in our
But when I
lifetime.
found out, when I went there,
That's what
tried
I
to
advocate
log
for.
in on the laptop. It was not working. Then I tried another one. It was not working.
I mean, moving to Canada might be a smart
Couldn't
business
have problems
choice.
with the laptop. I couldn't even log into the system. So I was told by the instructor, just listen, just listen, you don't need a laptop. Okay, so basically we were just I would say at least out of 20, 25.
You have a tape recording of this, don't you? That you don't want to share because you don't want the person who said this hurt. Is that correct?
No, so what I did was, since I didn't have a laptop, I didn't have nothing in front of me, I asked the instructor, can I record the lecture? Because I have to be, from October 5th, I have to be by myself. I have to work as a processor. So I want to learn something. So I asked the instructor, can I record your lecture? She said, sure, you can record. So with her permission, I recorded the lecture.
So, when we listened to it last night, did the instructor from the city of Detroit tell you, it doesn't matter if the address is wrong, or the birth date is missing, or there are no names, you must try and find a birth date. And if the signatures look different, find something about them that's the same. No application should be rejected. Is that the sum and substance of what, whether she or he?
She.
Is that what the female told you?
In a nutshell, that's what basically, you have to do everything to make sure, that voter, at the end, that voter should get a ballot and vote. So.
Even if the address was wrong?
See, but sometimes when the
The
voter is walking,
female.
they just key the house number and street name. But you have different ways to, you can search the voter, different ways you can locate the voter. Sometimes you are lucky, you will be able to find everything for that voter, then you can process the ballot. But that won't be the case for everybody.
Now suppose you can't find everything for that person. What do you do then?
Really?
In
There are
times like
ads on
these.
this?
The instructor sometimes tell you, you should set aside that application, and you will send that application back to the election headquarters, let them take care of it.
And when you did that, what happened to it?
I don't know what happened after that. I don't know. It was sent. And also I was also instructed with regard to how to verify the signatures. You have to do everything so that the signatures, to match it.
Well, during the time that you worked there, it should be about a month,
Yes.
except for you, did you ever see any other application rejected as deficient?
No.
Didn't you see people that came up to you that you rejected, that went to someone else, and then they accepted that person?
I do have to say, I really do enjoy that they're trying to allege, yes, the person who trained me to do this, was part of the illegal voting, like ballot counting scheme, said that it was okay for me to record their illegal instructions. I love that this is part of their argument.
See, the location where I was working, I remember a few times. I mean, I would say the first 2 weeks from October 5th, the first week is October 5th, as the first day, the early voting started at satellite locations. Then second week of October 12th. Daily, I would say the first week.
Yeah, Linky, we have a venting section or a support section.
6. Then second week maybe about 15. But the third week and the last week of October, we had more. And I remember two or three times. I had to reject. I think 2 or 3 occasions to reject the ballot, and they were so angry, and they were so angry, and they will sometimes get call you all kinds of names. Oh, you are saying I cannot vote? You don't count my ballot? Things like that. I would say, I'm so sorry. I cannot do. Then I will ask my supervisor what to do, and then supervisor will say, just say I don't know. Then you know what? He will say, oh, I have other places I will go and vote. Okay, then he will just walk out. So I don't know whether he went to the nearest one. Other side, you can go to any location. There are 23 satellite locations. You can go to any of the satellite locations.
So, are they alleging that someone came in to try and vote? She rejected like 2 or 3 people, and those people got upset when they were rejected, so they just said that they would go and try and vote somewhere else? Here you go. Okay. Yeah, this is truly the biggest scandal in American history.
Ms. Chamber?
Yes.
I want you to do this if you feel uncomfortable. But would you feel comfortable taking the mask off so people can hear you more clearly?
Can you hear me now?
Can everyone hear it clearly? We can hear you. Okay. Now, the supervisor...
I love how...
One.
Wow, okay.
2.
We can hear you. Okay. Now, the supervisor you originally had when you first were there, did you observe her coaching voters to vote for Biden and the Democrat ticket?
Yes.
And then as it got closer to the election, in fact, in the day or two before the election, were others of the workers there helping people to vote for Biden and the Democratic ticket and even going into the little booth with them?
Yeah, I remember on November 2nd specifically.
It's not illegal to help people vote. It's actually legal to fill out a ballot on behalf of somebody else, if that is what they are directing you to do. Some people have difficulty voting because they're too old, or they're, an immigrant and they don't have a strong grasp of English. This isn't... What she's describing is not a widespread voter fraud scheme, which is what Rudy Giuliani has been alleging.
That's the last day of absentee voter, November 2nd, 4 p.m. That's the deadline. So that day we had lots of people coming to the center. And I remember, let me be honest with you, I don't remember that person's name, but he was working as a ballot runner, and he was going to the polling booth. And,
Oh, Lily Love stuff. I'm really sorry. No, you don't have to apologize. You're not a downer.
I was really concerned, but I didn't say anything. I don't know whether my supervisor
But
saw
it is
the
helpful
room.
to know that, like,
But
yeah,
he was doing
people
that.
do this all the time.
Did
People
you find
help
that
others fill out their
wrong?
ballots.
Unacceptable?
I knew it is wrong, but I didn't. But
Pardon?
I knew it is wrong, but I'm just a processor there. It's up to the supervisor. I didn't say anything.
And then was there a day when 3 people came in wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts? I think it was on November 2nd, you said? They were going to the voting booth and helping people to vote?
No, what they did was, I think it was.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani's, you can't tell because it's really blurry, but he's sitting right here. But again, like, alleging that, like, are they alleging that there are just tens of thousands of these coached people that are going around the United States in this elaborate conspiracy scheme, and their conspiracy involves helping people vote and wearing Black Lives Matter shirts? Okay. Certainly an argument.
It was earlier than that. I don't remember the exact date, but they were 3 of them. One was holding the flag, and one was wearing, I think one of them were wearing the Black Lives Matter or something like that. And one of them, actually, he wanted to drop his, they were there to drop out their absentee ballot. So they walked into the room and they were dropping, one of them were dropping the ballot into the box. So another one was cheering, and the other one was taking pictures and things like that. I knew this.
Jeez,
Backcountry, this
Louise.
is Max.
Hey, how waterproof is the Cottonwoods?
How waterproof is it?
I knew it is also not right, but I cannot do anything. I was just sitting on my desk and doing my processing job, that's all.
Now, about 14 days before the election, your supervisor, I think you told me her name is Carl,
Thanks, The Hill.
said that she had a meeting with her boss, and that you should stop asking for driver's license or photo ID.
Yeah, what she told me was, they are all registered voters. You don't need any photo or your driver's license. They can just, come and vote. Let the people vote. So basically, but as a processor, I was not comfortable doing that. So myself, I was, when they come to my table, I used to ask them at very low voice, can I see your driver's license, please? I used to get from all of them to make myself comfortable when I am issuing the ballot. But I was told not to ask because they are all registered voters.
You asked them for driver's licenses and photo ID?
Yes, I did.
And what happened?
I mean, that way I can verify their signature, the signature on the driver's license, with the signature on the application, and also the signature in the QDF. So I can verify all those three. And when they return the ballot to me, I can see how they are signing on the absentee ballot envelope, the return envelope. So basically, all 4 locations, in the QDF file, on the driver's license, and on the application, and on the ballot return envelope. So they are good. If all 4 of them are matched, I will receive that ballot into the QDF, I'll save it, and I will place my initial on the ballot return envelope, ballot number, date, and again initial. So 2 initials I have to place on the ballot return envelope when I am receiving the ballot into the QDF. So I was doing that for each and every ballot that I issue.
Nick,
That's what is required by
Nick
the
Vodog,
DCM
thank you very much
official
for hitting that follow button,
manual.
friend. I appreciate it.
Now, your coworkers didn't do that, and they asked you, didn't they? Why do you do it?
Here's the thing, guys. By law, Michigan is does have a voter ID law. However, if you don't have a voter ID, if you don't have a valid picture ID, you can sign an affidavit that says, "Hey, I don't have a vote. I don't have a picture ID," and then you can vote. So, not having an ID is not a reason in Michigan to prevent people from voting.
You say, for my peace of mind?
Yeah, the driver's license, but the point when they said you don't need driver's license, I said for my peace of mind, I'm going to ask. Anyway, I'm going to get the driver's license. And sometimes you won't even be able to read the name on the application the way some people write. So I really want, for 2 reasons, to enter the voter's name correctly into the system, and also to verify the signature. And also, of course, the voter ID.
Did you also have to check signatures?
Yes, you do. That's the first thing you do before you even start processing the ballot.
And weren't you, on several occasions, didn't you turn people down?
Yeah.
Very angry at you, and then they went to one of your coworkers, and your coworkers accepted them?
One time I remember one young gentleman, he signed totally different, and he said, oh, then I showed him his signature at the studio file. I turned my laptop and showed to him, see how is your signature in the file, and he said, oh, that's not, I don't sign like that. That was from 10 years ago. I don't sign anymore. I don't sign like that anymore. And I said, sorry, I cannot do anything. But I think at that point, I think he walked out. Even though the supervisor, she was there, I don't think supervisor did anything. I think the gentleman walked out.
Did there come a time toward the end of that period when a still large number of people came to vote in person?
I feel like she's an honest actor. I don't feel like she is lying about her experiences. I feel like she is probably being heavily gaslit and misled by Rudy Giuliani.
But they were people who had requested absentee ballots.
Yes.
And how supposed to deal with it, and then how were you told to deal with it?
What I do is when the voters walk into the room, the person at the front desk, they will bring the driver's license. That is the first 2 weeks of October. They will bring the application, and the first thing I will do is I will enter the voter and I will do a voter search. Then the system will tell you whether if you already made the absentee ballot to dump or not.
Guys, one day, this channel, if we keep growing, if we hit 1K or more, we might one day be able to afford YouTube without ads. It will be a glorious day on which we no longer have to put up with ads every 2 minutes in this fucking video.
Whether there is an active ballot in the QEM system or the voter. So when you do that, lots of time you will see a ballot has been already sent to that voter, but when they come to you, they said, I never requested a ballot. I never received any ballot. I never requested for a ballot. Can I vote now? I'm here. I want to vote now. I said, of course. I can spoil the ballot. Then I can issue another ballot, and you can vote. So I have done that many times. But I was instructed to do like that. But for the Michigan officials manual, you are required to get a affidavit from that person, stating that I couldn't find my ballot, or
Affidavit.
I didn't receive the ballot, or whatever. I don't know. But an affidavit need to be submitted. But we were just asking them to fill a form. That's what we were doing. But they didn't have to bring that back to you. The first ballot that was already mailed to them, they didn't have to bring it back. I remember during that 1 month period, maybe I got like some of them voluntarily paid. I got maybe around
Now-
5 or 10 of them.
It may be inappropriate given that later on she kind of becomes like a prime figure in these hearings and whatnot. But I do need to point out a couple things. One, I really like her shoes. Two, I really like her outfit. These are observations. Anyway, let's continue.
That's all. But you are not required to bring it back. They fill out a form, then you will get another ballot, you complete the ballot in person, and you're done. Then I will receive that ballot into the system.
So now the other people that worked in your center, did they require the original ballot or an affidavit before they issued a new ballot?
No, none of us were trained to do that.
None of them did that?
No.
And that's what the law requires, correct?
For the incident official manual, yes. If you lost your ballot or you have a damaged ballot, yeah,
And that's so somebody doesn't vote twice, right?
yeah, I don't know what happened with the first ballot. I don't know.
Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yes.
And about 32,500 of those ballots, you estimate, were issued without spoiling the original ballot?
I mean,
The period of time you were there.
yeah, if you audit the file with the City of Detroit Election Department, from the QVF, you can find out how many ballots were spoiled, how many ballots were rejected, how many ballots were deleted. All those things you can find from the exact number.
Every condition is the perfect condition with the Wool Dasher Mizzen.
Guys, this is a 4-hour-long video. We're getting ads like every 3 minutes. This is ridiculous.
I mean, it's about right. I mean, I can speak to my center where I work, the Common Air Recreation Center location. I would say how many ballots I spoiled. The first 2 weeks there were lots of, third week of October. I would say around 100 ballots maybe I spoiled. I may be wrong, but I don't know exact number. But I can go back to my.
Sorry, Jesse, do you think it's 100 or 32,000?
I mean, there are 23 satellite sites. Okay, some satellite sites are more people, depending on the area. So yeah, you can say around 30,000, about 25,000 to 30,000 maybe.
And in any event, those would be,
Please, you're out of order, members. You're out of order. Representative Whitman, you're out of order. Let them continue. Representatives, you're out of order.
So basically, Rudy Giuliani here is trying to extrapolate that she's saying that she spoiled or canceled about 100 ballots. And Rudy Giuliani is then asking her to extrapolate that number to say that there are 32,000 ballots that were illegally cast. And I think that might have been a bridge too far for someone over here, and they're trying to talk over the witness.
Please continue.
and those would be, whatever they are, those would be totally illegal ballots, correct?
I mean, I don't know what happened to the first ballot that was mailed to the citizens. I don't know. That was not returned, but we were receiving a second ballot and they were voting in person at these locations. I really don't know what happened. Whether they shredded those ballots or they trashed it, I don't know. But it was not returned to the center or to the satellite sites.
On November 4, 2020, which is after the election, you were assigned now to the TCF Center, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And you arrived there at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And what were your duties there?
When I got there, at the front door, actually it was on the ground level of Cobo TCF Center. I think that's where the voter show usually takes place, the big one, about 1,000 by.
I mean, honestly, guys, like the issue isn't with our voting system. Our voting system is incredibly secure. We have like 0.03% rate of voter fraud. Like, the allegations here are ridiculous and ahistorical and not backed up by any kind of data. This is why, if their allegations were true, it would be historic. It would be the largest election crime ever committed in the United States. It would be one of the crimes of potentially our entire history as a nation. That's not happening. like if they had the evidence for it, they would be presenting it. They would be presenting it right now at this hearing. They wouldn't have this one woman come up and be like, yeah, some guys with some Black Lives Matter shirts came in, and people were like helping each other fill out ballots, and yeah, like I had to cancel like 100 ballots at my location, and I canceled them because voters came in to vote in person, and they wanted to cancel their mail-in vote. Like, this is not an indicator to me that there is this massive, widespread voter fraud conspiracy. Her instructor or supervisor gave her permission to record the meeting. These are not things that would be done if this was a secret conspiracy to overthrow the election.
Coffee, maybe big one, yeah. So it was packed. So when I went to the front desk, I talked to the person at the front desk. I showed her my badge. I talked to her.
Yeah, they don't give names, and part of the issue is also that, like, I feel like you would have to really struggle here to prove that there is material damage being done with such laughable allegations.
Report here, 8:30 by my supervisor, and then she said, okay, wait, let me go and get a supervisor on this floor, and she went and...
Now, get freaky at home.
Came back with the supervisor. I forgot the supervisor's name. So and he asked me, what were you doing at the election department? And I said I was a processor. And he said, oh, he needs you. Follow me. Then he took me to the podium, in the middle of the Cobo District Center podium, and he gave me the laptop, and also, you know, just gave me some. So then I was waiting there. I logged into the laptop, and at that point, I noticed Mr. Chris Thomas, Miss Pierce. Those were from the state of Michigan. They were sitting on the other side of the table, and one side of the table on the city election officials sitting.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a waste of time and money.
And my supervisor.
It's a giant grift. The Trump administration, the Trump campaign has gotten an extra like $175 million from donations from people to help them with their legal funds. It's just a giant
Did she
grift.
tell you just about immediately not to invalidate any ballots and not to look for deficiencies?
She gave me a pack of, I would say, about 10 to 15 ballots. Those were all open ballots. All were open. She brought them in and she said, Jesse, end of date, November 2nd, I received this ballot in the QEF. You know, this is...
True.
and also some
Trump
of the
does
ballots,
have to pay off
they
his
were
debt.
plastic, you know, cannot find in the poll book. Cannot find in the poll book. Some of them had it. So I took the first ballot and started, we opened up the QEF file, and I noticed that ballot was not received. The processor, whoever issued that ballot in person, or maybe that ballot was mailed, it came in postal mail, or it was picked up from the drop-off box. I don't know. There were no postage stamp or nothing on those envelopes. So I don't know the way, whether it was in person.
Oh,
postal mail,
270 million he's
or
up to
from the
now.
drop-off box.
Jeez.
So those ballots, some of them didn't have the counting code on the address label, no counting code printed. Some of the envelope didn't have ballot number printed on the address label. So, but
Yeah, it's a lucrative
but
grift.
still really concerning
And I
that
think
it's
most of it
overcrowded.
goes directly
All of
into
them
his
were open.
personal finances.
Some of them were upside down.
Like,
Does that mean that they were all open?
I think
What's the significance of that?
You are not supposed to.
I think there was a story that came out relatively recently where if you donated less than like $3,000 or something, it went straight in. It could be used for literally anything. It could go straight into his bank account.
Open. You
Into
have
a
to
leader
receive the ballot
pack?
into the system.
Yeah.
You cannot open the ballot. It should be.
What do you have to do first before you open the ballot?
So when you receive the ballot, the first thing you should do is, first you have to search the voter. You enter the last name, place first name of the voter, a QE scan, and then you will locate that voter. Then you will get the absentee voter details. You will match the signature on the absentee ballot return envelope with the signature in the file, to qualified voter file. Once it is verified, then you have to receive it. You have to receive that into the system. Once you receive it, then you have to place your initials, ballot number. Actually, you have to place twice your initials on the ballot return envelope. one for the date you received, one for the ballot number. So that's required. You are required to do that as a processor.
Was that being done?
No,
Was that being done by anyone else that you could see in the entire facility?
no. Actually, I was
You the
told.
only one doing it?
No. When I was trying to do that, the required, step-by-step process, I was told by my supervisor, Ms. Aldridge, no, don't look for anything. Do not check anything. Just enter the date, November 2nd. Keep going. We have lots of ballots. We have to finish this. I need you to do as fast as you can. Just enter November 2nd. Keep going.
Christmas trees try so hard. The best trees only need peanut butter and chocolate.
Then I did one or two of them like that. But this is a really, I felt so bad because once you modify the QBF file, you can see the username who modified that file, the last day that data was modified. So if you click, you will see who modified. So when I clicked that, it was my username and the date. It will show. So basically, even though the received date was entered as November 2nd, when you click the QBF file, you will see my username, and the date I entered is November 4th. That's not right.
I'm sorry, Jesse, I didn't quite get that. What did you say?
See, when you, okay, I did, just like my supervisor told me, this is at the TCF center. At the satellite sites, my supervisor there never instructed me anything like that. We were receiving, the minute I get the ballot, we were receiving the ballot into the system, same date. And everything was doing according to the manual.
Yeah, it's on the hill.
This is, I just want to specify this one I was asked to do at the TCF center at the podium, where all these ballots were coming from. I didn't even know where all these ballots were coming. Because keep coming. Then when I asked the person who was sitting next to me, she was doing the same thing. And she kind of told me, oh, Jesse, we were doing this since 9 p.m. yesterday. That's November 3rd. We didn't even go home. We really need your help, to complete this, to finish. So basically what they were doing is entering all these ballots into the QBF so they can count those ballots. That's what I thought. But they were not following the procedure. Okay, when you are receiving the ballot, and also backdating. Why you are doing that on November 4th? It should have been done. The deadline was November 3rd, 9 p.m. That's the deadline for you to receive the ballot, absentee ballot, into the system. As a matter of fact, on November 3rd, I had to stay till 8:30. Even though the polls were closed at 8 p.m., I had to work till 8:30 to complete receiving all the ballots that received into the satellite sites. So all the processes, they are required to do that. 9 p.m. November 3rd, at 8 p.m. is the poll closing time, and you will get 1 hour grace period. So 9 p.m. it should be completed. For that, we were asked to collect absentee ballots from the drop-off box every hour. Every hour we were doing it. And we were receiving the ballot to the QBF on November 3rd, every hour. So
Every hour you were doing what?
receiving the ballot, we will go to the drop-off box in front of the satellite location, and we will collect the absentee ballots, we'll bring it to the table, and whatever you are doing, you will set aside all the work that you are doing, you will make sure the ballot is, because for the Michigan official manual, this is written. Immediate recording of the ballot is required into the QBF. Immediate recording. Once you receive.
Okay, so here. Michigan's 8 p.m. deadline for returning absentee ballots could sway tight election. This is what she's talking about. It's not 8 p.m. and we stop counting. It's 8 p.m. and that's when you can't accept more ballots. Specifically absentee ballots. Hey. All right. Slap my butthole. Thank you very much for hitting that follow button. I appreciate it, friend. In more ways than one.
The ballot, immediate recording is required. Not after 3 days or after 2 days, no.
Your supervisor, Carol Olson.
We were doing that. We were doing that in our satellite sets for the Michigan's, what is written in the manual.
Was anybody else doing what you were doing?
My center, there was another processor, my supervisor, all three of us, we were doing that.
Your supervisor ordered you, though, not to invalidate any ballots.
Thanks for the great streams. I'm kind of a newcomer here, been following in and on, and I love your attitude and analysis on every issue I've seen you touch. background in the autonomous left, but in Europe, so I apologize in advance if I sound uninformed, but I'm really curious at the growing leftist movement in the US and Europe. We have had and have socialist reforms parties in parliament, but in the US it is only recently we have seen a surge with AOC. I think your message cuts off. If you want to post the rest of it, I'd be happy to read it.
Not to look for deficiencies, not to check signatures. And then when you did it, she got angry at you, did she?
So that's the one at TCF Center, Miss Aldrich.
Yes, Miss Aldrich, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
She
wait.
was so angry, and you know what?
Should the growing leftist movement in the U.S. collaborate with partisan institutions? I think that yes, like a leftist movement in the United States needs to work through the two-party system. Like that, currently that's how we wield power in the United States. Currently that is how our power structures exist. So I think that any kind of socialist revolution needs to be done through the Democratic Party, and I think that it needs to work towards ranked choice voting to enable the formation of third parties, like a socialist party. Like, for all intents and purposes, DSA is great, okay? The DSA is great. But part of the issue is the DSA can't get political power. That's why the DSA primarily endorses Democratic candidates who have socialist principles or socialist policies. That being said, I think that a leftist movement in this country needs to be a populist one that rises up from the ground up and pushes people into office in the Democratic Party and gets socialists in control of the levers of power within that party. And once we're in those positions, then we can really, really push for these things. Because right now, DSA feels sad. Well, nothing against the DSA. Like, I think you guys do a lot of really, really valuable work that really needs to be done. I'm just saying that I think that we need to be able to reform the system to make the DSA into a viable political party. And so, yeah, I'm on the central committee of my county Dems, and I ask myself this often. Well, Pavlov's devil dog, that sounds really great. I'm glad that you're involved in politics. The Democratic Socialist Association? I don't actually know what the A stands for. Democratic Socialists of America. Thank you. My brain had a fart. So, yeah, the issue here is that I think that I know I just want more power. We all do, Nick Vodog. But that's the primary issue. I advocate for, like, ideally, what I want to happen is to grow my channel so that it becomes so big that I can be like, hey guys, you need, if you care about these issues, you need to run. You know, you need to work for campaigns in your local area. You need to be able to get into these places, because it's not just enough to sit and talk about it. We need to actually follow up and do these things. You know, it needs to be a combination of voting and also direct action, whether that is protesting. Like there's value to protest, there's value to running for office, there's value for volunteering in campaigns. All of this is really incredibly valuable. All of this, people have different skill sets. They're more suited to one thing than another. And we need to work together to basically push this country in a better direction. Like, we need to mobilize the political willpower, and we need to be able to actually get into these places to exert that power. So, yeah, that's my position.
She did. It was around 11 o'clock. She said, mistake, you can take your lunch break. I said,
Oh,
"Okay."
wait. I didn't address the actual question. I think that we need to be able to collaborate, or at the very least, work with partisan organizations. And when it comes to certain issues, like, I think that there are certain issues we could work with, like, different people who might otherwise be ideologically aligned against us. And again, it's the issue of working on select issues that have defined parameters. It's not enough to say, oh, you don't like homelessness? I don't like homelessness. Let's work on that together. No, you need like an actual policy position. Because frequently conservatives or neoliberals will have very different solutions to things that we all collectively agree are problems. And we need socialist solutions to these problems. So yes to collaboration, but with the caveat that it needs to be done very carefully and tactically. Yeah. There we go.
Had my snack, it's already 11 o'clock. He said, no, take lunch break. I said, what, 30 minutes? No, you can take 2 hour lunch break. Just take 2 hour lunch break. And then I said, okay, I will leave my bag and my jacket and everything. And she said, no, take everything. And you can go upstairs. And she showed me where is the escalator. Go to upstairs, that's where the lunch room is. So I had to go. I left my laptop on the table there. I went there upstairs, and there were lots of people, and I was, because of the COVID, I didn't eat anything. I just, actually, there was a free lunch for everybody, so I just ate applesauce. Then I came down. When I came down,
Jesse, before we get there, why don't you tell us what that dispute was about? You put a sticky on the ballot saying that it was an invalid ballot.
Yes.
Because it was issued after the deadline.
yes.
And she wanted you to backdate it, correctly? Correct.
Yeah, let me explain. What happened was when I was told during the November 2nd as the receive date, I noticed one of the ballot, the date was November 3rd, absentee ballot. The deadline for absentee ballot issuance is November 2nd, 4 p.m. So it was issued on November 3rd, election day. It was received received everything on November 3rd. Then I checked whether that voter is a new registered, newly registered. No, he was not registered on November 3rd. He was registered sometime in 2010, 10 years ago. So you are not supposed to issue absentee ballot on election day to already registered voters. So I told, and then right away I talked to Mr. Daniel Baxter. He was standing next to me. I put a note.
Please tell us who Mr. Baxter, so Mr. Baxter was right nearby?
Yes.
And you gave the ballot to him?
With that sticky note.
And is his name Daniel Baxter?
Yeah, Mr. Daniel.
And what's his role? What's his title?
I know I don't know whether he's a director. I know he was in charge of the operation on that road. One of the senior most.
Okay, we'll find out what his role is. And what about, wasn't his boss there too? A gentleman named Chris Thomas?
Yes. So when I gave that ballot,
What did they conclude about this invalid ballot?
so with a sticky note, because with all this noise and everything in the DCF center and with the mask, you talk, they won't be able to hear. So I always used to write down the sticky note so that they know exactly what I'm trying to convey to them. So
Hey, Venom Jesus.
So-and-so reason it was issued on November 3rd.
Everything's going pretty well.
So I showed to,
We're
Mr.
trying to
Baxter, and
power
he
through
took
the
that to,
hearings here.
Mr. Chris Thomas was standing nearby, so he showed that to Mr. Thomas with a sticky note, and after Mr. Thomas read that note, he said, yeah, she's right, but why should we punish voters for processor's mistake? Okay, that's what he said. Why should we punish voters for processor's mistake?
Was he in charge of the effort for Detroit? Was he the person in charge?
That's what I found out.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, that's what I found out later. I knew it. Yes.
And then, maybe you can summarize some of it.
Yes, and then after that, after that statement from Mr. Chris Thomas,
Do we I'm not sure. I don't get the feeling that we're going to get to hear Mr. Thomas's side of this story in this hearing. Which interesting.
he gave that ballot back to Mr. Daniel Baxter, and I again told Daniel Baxter, I'm sorry, I cannot receive this ballot. This is invalid. Then it's your call. I told Mr. Daniel Baxter. So he took that ballot from me and dropped that ballot. There was a box next to the
Sad days ahead, it feels like.
Underneath the table.
Yeah, probably.
He just dropped that ballot into the box.
Sad days, indeed,
Let's see if I can
but
short-
filled with
after-
opportunity
after
and
a short
hope.
time, you were told
Okay?
to go to lunch for
Don't
2
give up
hours,
hope.
right?
Yes.
And you went to lunch for an hour and a half,
Yeah, about
and you came back.
Yes,
and another gentleman named George Azulus gave you some ballots to work on.
yes,
And Carol Aldrich saw you there.
yeah.
She came down from the podium.
Yeah.
And what did she tell you?
So when I came back from lunch, my seat was gone. There was a box on top of the laptop. My laptop was on the table. So So basically, nobody was even, Miss Aldridge was, she was totally ignoring me. She didn't want me to be there at the podium anymore. So I was on the floor level. I found a table and a chair. I sat there. So when I was sitting there, I saw Mr. George Azuz. I think he's later I found out he's the director of the elections, election headquarters. So, but I have seen him when I was working at the election headquarters. So I recognized him, and I said, I didn't know his name at that point, but I said, I'm here. I can help. Can I have a laptop and I can start validating this ballots. So he right away he went to the podium and brought a laptop to me, and I logged into the laptop, and he also gave me like a bunch of about 10, 15 ballots, same thing that I was doing in the morning. But he didn't know what happened, what was going on in the morning. He didn't know. So he basically was giving an assignment. He was telling me to do it. So when I started doing it, again, same thing, at November 2nd, and the November 2nd. So Miss Aldridge saw that from the podium that I'm at the floor level, and also she saw I have the ballots. She came down from the podium. She said, do not, I was taking the signature and just whatever process I was going to do. She said, do not. Said the signature keep going. I told her in the morning, November 2nd, keep going. And she said, do not write anything. Do not write poetry. I do not want you to write anything. At that point, I saw Chris Thomas standing nearby on the floor level. I showed that ballot in the Curia. After I searched the voter, I showed the signature on the Curia file and also the signature on the envelope. Totally different. Totally different.
The signatures are totally different?
Yes.
Who did you show that to?
To Mr. Chris Thomas. And
What did he say?
he said, oh, that's okay. Let it go. Just let it go. That's fine. Okay, let it go.
He was the boss, right?
Yes. So, but at that point, I couldn't do anything because when I am entering the ballot, when they are telling me to enter November 2nd, or the date to be received November 2nd or November 4th, which date I will initial on the ballot? November 4th or November
Off-topic
2nd?
stuff
I
like
couldn't
that in
do
the
it.
Discord.
So how would you describe
You can post it
how
in
they
the
treated you, how
Discord,
you reacted to it?
but you don't have to. You can post it in chat.
Yeah, it is.
I just might miss it in chat, you know.
Humiliated me,
If
harassed me,
especially if it gets kind of
so humiliated.
spicy,
I mean,
you know.
I couldn't. It was so bad. I really want to serve the city of Detroit, very truthfully and sincerely. That's what I was doing all these 34 years I've been working with the city. My whole family, we are proud that we are working, me and my husband both are working for the city of Detroit. I never expected this kind of treatment. It was really, really bad. So then at that moment, then George also told me, come up here, you can take all your stuff from there, come up here to the podium. Then I went back to the podium. Then he told me, he gave me another chair to sit there. Then I saw the state representative, Miss Pierce, Carol Pierce. She was sitting there, and I went to her and I asked her for more ballots to validate. And she was also very rude. She said, I don't need you here. I don't need any of your help. Get out of here. And then I asked her, may I know your name? You know what she did? She took her badge and threw at me. She threw the badge at me.
Were you, the whole experience there, were you shocked at the level of crookedness that was going on and dishonesty?
I couldn't believe it.
No union.
Happen every
We
day.
we have no
Okay,
unions
then
here.
November 4th, I think it's
Very
December.
few
And I
unions in the
finally
United
decided,
States.
They didn't give me any work. I even asked Daniel Baxter, can I do something else? I can help with the county board table, anything you want me to do. I came here to work till 5:30. Nobody was giving me anything. I just sat there and around 5:30, Mr. George Azuz came to me and said, I'm so sorry, Jesse, you didn't do anything wrong. I apologize, I'm so sorry. That's what he told me. And he asked me for my business card. I had my business card with me. I gave him my business card and I decided to go home around 5:30. But he was nice to me, George Azuz. But I can never forget what I went through. And also I was really concerned if these ballots were problematic, why they were bringing that to the podium. It should have been kept at the county board table and it should have been resolved. Whatever the issue with those ballots, it should have been resolved at the respective county boards. It should not have been even brought to the podium in the first place. So I don't know. I really don't know. And also after they fixed that ballot, who was taking ballot to work?
Okay, so her position here is like, I don't know. Something fishy is going on here. Like that's her position. Like she doesn't actually know.
Well, I didn't know. So everything what was going on at the podium was not right.
Jesse?
Dark days ahead because unemployment ends. Yeah, 12/26.
Right? Special problem.
Yeah, some of them didn't have
Working
the
call
county
center
board,
for
so they
unemployment.
didn't have that
Real
ballot-
sad and
that
getting
ballot
every
belonged to
day.
the county board.
Oh
Some of the
gosh.
ballot didn't have the ballot number.
Nikvo dog.
So these were ballots with expert special.
I can imagine that
And you
that's
were there a day and a
a
half.
depressing
How
grind.
many ballots were examined while you were there?
I was
And there was no inspection by a Republican inspector. Can you estimate that for me? I think in the past you told me 25,000.
Actually, I worked at the Cobalt TCO Center on November 4th from 8:30 to 5:30.
Correct.
And then when I asked George Azuz, I told George Azuz, actually I was told to continue to work for the election department till November 20th. So I asked George Azuz, where do you want me to come tomorrow? And he said, oh, we are all done here. You can go back to the election headquarters. So I went back to election headquarters on November 5th. So basically, they allowed me to be there only on one day, not even one day, maybe for 2 hours, but I was there till 5:30. But I had to go through this so inhumane. I mean,
Is there anything else you'd like to say, Jesse, about your experience?
I just want to be so thankful. I've been in this country for 35 years. I'm so thankful for this country, for all the opportunities. And I am who I am because of this nation.
Now, guys, I feel bad for this woman. I have no doubt that she went through a rude experience, or a mean exchange here. But that being said, this is to prove that, like, this hearing is supposed to prove voter fraud. And her bottom line was, I don't know. It's obviously bad that she had a bad experience, but I don't know is not proof of voter fraud.
And also, I'm a devoted Catholic, and I was able to go to church and pray and rosary and everything. I really love this country, and I really want to do. I hope this will help this nation. That's the only reason I'm here. And also my 3 children. Thank you, Jesus, for all the blessings and graces that you are showering upon us and on all this nation. I have nothing else to say. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jesse. Would you say, Jesse, that was an experience you've never expected to have, that much crookedness and dishonesty at the Detroit Center for Counting Votes? Were you shocked
Rudy might be putting some words into her mouth here. Jeez.
at the level of dishonesty and crookedness there?
Yes, I mean, the whole center was so kind of noisy.
Representative.
I know my city, Detroit. I've been with the city for 34 years. I've been serving the citizens of Detroit, so I'm so happy. They're all nice people. I'm not saying, they don't deserve this. They are nice people. My supervisor, I've been at engineering department.
Man, people are getting upset.
I've been with the city for 34 years, from 2007
Is
to
Antifa
2010.
too spicy a subject for this chat? Nah.
And now I'm the head engineer. I'm working with
My dude, I'm
supervisor,
I'm
my directors.
Antifa.
They're all very nice
I
people.
hate
So, yeah,
fascists.
Please don't misunderstand me. I'm talking about this. My experience when I worked at the elections, first time in my life, for 2 months, about 2 months, what I experienced. But as an employee of the city of Detroit, oh, I'm so grateful to them. I'm so thankful to each and every of my coworkers. They are all very nice. So please don't misunderstand me.
Ligma Fussy. My Fussy? Thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. Although now I'm wondering what a fussy is, or a fussy. What is it? What is a fussy? Like I know what a bussy is. I know what a pussy is. What's a foot pussy? Oh, okay. Interesting. I've never heard that term before. My fussy has been popped. Thank you.
And please direct your question to the chair.
Ms. Johnson, please don't take it.
Yeah, so I'll, if it's all right, we'll start here now. And Mr. Mayor, I do want to remind you, I mean, we're not going to go till 1 or 2 a.m. So I understand that, you know, this is somebody, I mean, obviously you're very brave to come forward with your story. I can tell you care a lot about your job.
No. Jack,
I appreciate you sharing it here
yes.
today, because I know it's been difficult for you.
Yes, yes.
With that, I'm going to open up to questions. We'll do 1 question per member who wants it.
Oh yeah, we
And
looked
then
at Donald
we're done.
Win the other day when they were coping hard over Bill Barr.
With that, I'll move on
No,
to
not
Representative
between.
LaFave.
Okay, no. Your fussy would be when, like, you align both your feet on either side of a penis. That becomes your fussy. It, you know, like this. Anyway, yeah. Okay, there you go. There we go. We've cleared it up, everyone. We established what a fussy is. Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming and testifying today. And I'm very glad that you decided to be a part of it. Welcome. I have 1 question, as per the rule, and it might sound like a series. Anything that I say is wrong, please correct, okay?
Sure.
You were told to enter the ballots at the TCF hall as received on 11/2,
Yes.
and that was not the date. You also were told by Mr. Chris Thomas, why should we punish voters for processors' mistakes? And Chris Thomas identified a ballot that you showed him with a signature that did not match the qualified voter file.
Yes.
And directed, Chris Thomas said, let it go, that's fine.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Representative LeGrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ma'am, thank you for being here today. I'm gonna
Okay, so by the way, guys, is this speed good? Is this keeping it moving along at a decent clip? Because we only have one faster speed for this. I'm not sure if that's what we would want or not. Okay.
refer back to my notes here. So about, I don't know, maybe around 6:30 we got to this. You said that about, and I'm reading from my notes here, so if I get this wrong, again, feel free to correct me. But if I understand your testimony, you're saying...
Also, is it
about
loud
14
enough?
days before the election, your supervisor, Carla, told you that people could vote without ID. And you said that for your peace of mind, you insisted that people provide ID. Are you aware that people in Michigan can vote without identification? In fact, I've always voted that way.
You're not aware of that? Members of the audience, please, let's be respectful. Thank you.
And are you aware of that, ma'am?
Instead of the 14 days, that is the restricted registration time, you have to have the ID and also the proof of residency. And if you don't have the driver's license, you have to submit an affidavit, and also you have to have a passport or something, photo ID. That's my understanding.
Okay, you're confused. Thank you.
Okay, you're confused.
Representative.
Damn, I feel bad for this lady.
Sure. When you were processing these ballots, at any point in time, were there ever any poll watchers, poll challengers, and if so, were they from both parties or just one party?
It's from Democratic Party. Actually, one day I happened to talk to one of the persons. She came from DC Democratic Party. I don't remember seeing anybody from the other party.
Representative C.A. Johnson. Representative C.A. Johnson, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Your name is Jesse
Jacob.
Jesse Jacobs. Is that your birth name?
Okay. My first name is Jesse. When I was married, my husband's last name is Jacob. When I got married in 1983, 37 years ago, I had my maiden name. That's my dad's house name. It's a long name.
Can you spell it, please?
K-I, K like kite,
What?
I-Z-H-A-K-E-K-E-R-A.
Representative, what is your question, please?
I'm asking the question.
Please
She
ask.
gave a lot of information. I just want to know who she is.
Representative, please, it's reasonable to ask the name of the person.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. But now that you know it.
What was your first name?
What is this line of questioning? Also, Jack of Daw, thank you very much for the 3 months at Tier 1. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, friend.
Jesse.
Thank you.
J-E-S-S-Y, not E.
J-E-S-S-Y.
Y.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now please move on to your question,
That's
Representative.
it. You asked me one.
Thank you.
What?
Representative,
And my middle name is Sunny. My middle name is Sunny. S-U-N-N-Y.
What?
I think it's important, Representative C.A. Johnson. I mean, if that was, we're not here to intimidate people. I mean, these
That's
are...
okay, that's okay.
Okay, I mean, we want to hear what happened. So Representative Camilleri, please proceed with your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Giuliani, before you began...
Gavel this. The question is for the witness. As I told you at the end, you're able to ask a question, Mr. Giuliani.
We have three people actually before our panel today.
Representative,
before our panel, and I know that you gave your power away to Mr. Giuliani to ask questions during this part of the testimony. That's fine, but it is now my right as a representative to ask a question of the people before our committee. This is not for the committee of the state legislature. I should have a right to ask a question of who is before us.
I will allow you to ask a question at the end of Mr. Giuliani, as I stated at the beginning. If you have a question for the witness, Ms. Jacob, please ask it. If you don't, then I'm going to move on.
Ms. Jacobs, I know that you've given testimony previously. We've heard your story in the media. I know that you gave testimony yesterday as well. Judge Penny in Wayne County Circuit Court.
May I ask?
Did you have
testimony yesterday.
Representative, please tell us your question.
You've asked one of the leading questions yourself, Mr.
Representative Camilleri, please, what is your question?
My question, Ms. Jacobs, is Judge Penny has ruled that your testimony in court is incorrect and not credible. So why should we believe anything that you said here today?
I'm not aware of any such ruling. She's never been a witness in court. It would have been possible for a judge.
Your affidavit was ruled
May I please finish?
incorrect and not
May I have
credible.
the courtesy to finish?
Oh, her affidavit was ruled incorrect and not valid. Jeez. I think the footage of it is just coming out now. When was this? On Wednesday. Yeah, it's from December 2nd.
She's never been a witness in court, so no judge could ever have assessed her credibility.
What is your question, Mr. Camilleri?
Why are we listening to your story here today if it has already been ruled incorrect and not credible by a judge in court? It has. Well, it's not a bar. This is a committee. Why are you objecting to what I'm saying?
Representative, is there an answer to that?
Okay, you can go and ask the judge who denied that, okay? I don't know anything about it.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on. Vice Chair Riley with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my question, I noticed you said you
This
looked
is
at some of the
video
signatures.
quality.
What percentage of the signatures would you say did not match or did not?
No, when I was at the satellite sites working as a processor, I always make sure the signatures matched. This was at TCF Center on November 4th.
And, yeah, and at that point, did you look at any of the signatures?
Yes,
And-
and I showed that to Mr. Chris Thomas, and he said, let it go. It was totally different, let it go. And after that, I was kicked out.
Yeah,
I
no,
was told not to
definitely,
write
definitely a
anything like that.
kangaroo court here.
So, that day, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, there are no more questions for you, Ms. Jacob. Thank you for your testimony today. You're very brave coming here, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I am so thankful to this honorable body for having me and for listening to
Damn,
me.
who's that
Thank you
lady
so
on the
much.
far left? I like her
Understand we have
boots.
next,
I'd buy her a glass of wine.
Carol, all right, please come up when you're ready, and if possible, we can limit this to 10 minutes. I appreciate that. Mr. Giuliani, you indicated that the first person was somebody that hadn't testified before, didn't testify yesterday. Sure, and so we told her, no, I understand, and I think she had a very valuable story to tell, and she was very brave coming here.
I have a big weakness for like knee-high boots, like thigh-high boots. I get really excited anytime I get to wear them in public. It's like an event for me.
Obviously, a great risk, and, we understand that, but from here on, if we can condense these testimonies, if we can allow more questions to come from the members, we'd appreciate that, sir. So with that, please, Melissa, we'd like to hear your story, and please, when you're ready, proceed.
Melissa, why don't you tell us your name and tell us, short and briefly as you can, what happened when you were working for the meeting?
My name is Melissa Carone. I was contracted to work for Dominion Voting System.
The problem with thigh-high socks for me is that my thighs are too big and they just like the socks roll down. You know, it's a problem. It's a problem having these thick thighs that save so many lives, you know? With great power comes great responsibility.
I'm a freelance IT worker.
Glyphtonoid, I agree. This is not vibing.
IT during the election. I started work at 6 a.m.
This is why we are talking about this stuff,
I
though.
got off work at 5 a.m. November 4th. Went home, went to bed. Returned to work at 10 a.m. November 4th. Stayed until approximately 2 p.m. November 4th. When I got off, I had a doctor's appointment. I was supposed to come back to work. One of the Dominion employees.
Your doctor made fun of you for it, Venom Jesus?
We're almost done
What the
counting
fuck?
ballots. We don't need you to come back. It was getting a little rowdy when I left. I really didn't want to come back anyways. So that is why I was contracted to work for Dominion.
Now, I've only seen like a couple minutes of her testimony prior to this, but A, again, I have to point out, I really like her outfit. B, I really like her shoes. I know that that's redundant, but C, I feel like she gives off a lot of crazy party energy. I feel like if we met up and like went partying, it would be a really good time. I just wish she wasn't working for conservative shills. Anyway, moving on.
What did you observe?
I observed numerous employees, city workers, running batches of ballots through the tabulators countless times without discarding them first. The tabulating machines would jam 2 to 3 times an hour. When they would jam, the correct process would be to pull out the problem ballot that jammed. Say the problem ballot was number 24 out of 50.
The drunk lady?
I wasn't allowed to touch that.
Yeah, she kind of comes across that way, yeah.
Assist them, tell them to pull out this ballot, put the problem ballot on top. In Michigan, our ballots from the tabulators don't just drop into sealed ballot boxes. They are now, as they got tabulated, they are now on top of the tabulating machine. Okay? So instead of them taking these, so say, let's keep it number 25 is the problem ballot, it got jammed. So the computer would throw an error. It would say ballot number 25, there's an error. I would say pull out ballot number 25, slowly pull it out, put it on top, take the ballots that had already been tabulated, which are on top of the tabulating machine now, put them all back in a stack, discard the entire batch, and re-scan it. Instead of discarding, they were just re-scanning.
Here, I'm going to try something really quick.
Counting
multiple times. The lead needs to pop it 30,000 times.
At Hickory Farms, we know every special occasion deserves an equally special gift.
Thousands of times being counted. When we examine the poll book and see who voted, and we count those numbers, would they then not line up with the total number of votes coming out of Detroit?
The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off
That poll,
30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000. That poll book, why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So my question then is if
That's how many, wait, what about the turnout rate? 120%?
Let's let Representative Johnson ask a question.
The poll book number, okay, there's two things that can happen here. Either the poll book...
Rudy had to reel his girl back in. She was swinging, taking some swings, some swangs.
Number, if ballots are called multiple times, there's two options. Option number one is that the poll book numbers are not going to match.
They don't.
Yeah. Not by thousands votes. That's how we see right now.
You take a look again. Take a look again.
Option number two is that they essentially were filling in names of people who didn't vote.
That peaceful too?
So is that...
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, and then we
I
can
thought that
start.
was
Well, I guess that's why my question is, why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes? That's not...
What do you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I
saying
saw.
that they're filling in...
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Okay, we're...
Let me ask a question here.
Yeah, let's
Did,
let Representative
did
Johnson ask
you?
his question, and then-
Did you sign an affidavit to go to
and then if
prison?
you wanna respond to it,
Did
that's
you?
fine. Did you have more, Representative?
I guess I just want to keep on back up with the poll books. Are we saying that the poll book is either wildly off or that they are
Wildly off.
filling in names?
It's wildly off, and that people voted, and illegals voted,
Okay,
so that's my
I think
answer.
we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Representative,
Yeah, this is convincing. Now this is testimony, okay? Oh gosh. Now my question is, I'm not entirely sure if she can perjure herself in this setting. This is a hearing before the House of Representatives in Michigan. I'm not sure if perjury laws apply here. They aren't under oath. Yeah. She's an IT temp for a contractor and apparently is an expert in everything but IT. Yeah. Yeah, basically, I think Rudy was able to coach that first lady. I don't think this lady has had any coaching. She's just spouting off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, ma'am, can I ask you a simple question? When did you convey the narrative? When did you communicate substantially the narrative that you've given us today? Do you recall the date that you gave that to the Trump legal team, to Mr. Giuliani and the next one?
To Mr. Giuliani,
To the team.
I'm working with a different attorney.
Well, they're here with you now, and they heard your story. It's not the first time I heard it. When did you tell them?
I
When
have
did you
not
give them
spoken
essentially the
directly to
narrative?
Mr. Giuliani.
I'm not asking you to finesse here. I'm asking you, when did you tell them the narrative
When
that
did I
you're
write
telling
my
us
first affidavit? November 8th.
now? Thank you. That's a
She keeps interrupting them as they're trying to ask questions.
great place to start. Thanks.
Right, did that answer your question? Because it was sent before in the login.
I think we're good here. We'll move on. So, thank you, Representative Grant.
I met her for the first time today. I talked to her for the first time yesterday. I can't give you a second.
His statement was, I think his statement was, if the affidavit matches the testimony today, you're good. Is that what you said? Okay. All right, with that, I think we'll move on to our next person, if that's all right. Thank you for your testimony.
Andrew Cito and Hima.
Is that right, or are we gonna do the Colonel?
I thought we do Andrew and Hima next together.
Okay.
The two people that she mentioned.
All right, that makes sense, since you
Girl
mentioned
got a
it.
booty.
All right.
Girl
And,
got a
thank you.
booty. Gotta respect.
Okay,
Respect the
great.
booty.
You know, if we could, I hope that we're respectful to the representatives here, both the Republicans and the Democrats. I think we're trying to ask legitimate questions. We're trying to get to the bottom of what happened.
Just saying.
The Senate had 7 hours.
Just
of testimony yesterday.
saying.
They heard from a lot of people. We've asked, a few more to come today, but we really truly have, most of
I'm
us at least,
sorry.
genuine questions about what
I'm
happened.
sorry.
And I think they're sincere in many cases.
Look,
They're probably
I'm-
weren't in the early part.
look.
I know Representative S. Johnson.
Look, I'm an aggressively bisexual lady who has not been on a date for like the entire year. Girls got to notice some things, you know?
Representative LeGrand, they were legitimate, fair questions.
Booty good, I
All right,
agree.
be respectful to the representatives. I'm also asking the representatives, be respectful to these people. I mean, these are regular citizens of Michigan who've seen things, please, who've seen things.
Booty is where they
that
store
wanna
the
talk about.
sass.
And
True.
you know what? It's pretty intimidating, I'm sure, to come to a legislative committee. Please, everyone. But it's, it's difficult to come to a committee like this and to tell your story. Please, everyone.
I have never had sex left side, Phil. So, boom, beat that.
When you come to a committee like this, it can be tough, it can be intimidating. I know these are very hard stories for people to tell. I just ask that we try to be respectful of one another. And also, we can't, we don't want everybody to hear people yelling in the back. So, with that, can you please say your names and tell
Not to
us,
simp, but I
why
date
you're
you.
here,
Well,
and,
thank you.
we look forward to hearing your
I
story.
date me too.
Are you ready?
My name is Andrew Cito.
I'm having sex with everyone.
And can you
Pavlov's devil dog. I agree with you as well. I've got needs, okay? I've got needs.
tell us why you're here?
I was a poll challenger.
Is this a sex cult? It will be.
Where were you a poll challenger?
At DPS.
In Detroit. And were you too?
Yes, I was a volunteer at the DCS and on Washington.
Okay.
I got trained by MIGOP and also by the Electoral Integrity Fund, but then I received my credentials from the MIGOP. So on the 3rd of November, I was representing the MIGOP on the floor, and all I was doing that day was just stand behind the tabulator.
This is the super horny chat only. True.
So I was standing behind the tabulator machines, and I could tell right away that most of those people did not know what to do when a ballot gets jammed. And I had to literally stand behind them and say, you need to discard when a ballot gets jammed. And just like the previous witness, what she was saying, yes, that those tabulators were getting jammed, at least, like she said, 3 or 4 times an hour. And if they knew what to do when there is an error,
Hell yeah,
they're doing
lady.
it right.
Own those boots.
To explain to the other person who was asking, when you take the jammed ballot out, you have an option to discard the number. There is a column that says, that's actually tabulating, that's incrementally tabulating every time a ballot gets jammed. So when a ballot gets jammed, you have an option to go and say discard, then it makes it 0. But you also have an option to continue. So what happens is when you take those jammed ballots, one jammed ballot plus the rest of the ones that got tabulated, and put them through again, like feed them, if you say continue tabulating, it will add to that 24 or 25 that got jammed, and then again rescan this entire thing. Like she said, the number only has to be 50. There were machines, at least not the machines I was guarding, I was behind tabulator number 5 and 6, and because I was on top of them, telling them every single time, stepping forward and saying you didn't make it 0, those machines were doing okay. But I did come across a couple of other machines where the numbers were 300, 400, it's not supposed to be. But I could clearly tell that some of those people didn't know how to discard and start again. So was there an overcount? Yes. Was it off by thousands? I can't tell. I only can tell what I saw. And I witnessed that some people didn't know what to do when it was getting jammed. I don't know how much of training they all had, but some people did not know IT. Similarly, at the county board too, where I witnessed this big stack of ballots that came in with a note saying not in EPB/S, which is not in election poll book or system. I didn't even know that can even happen, that you can actually have ballots that are not in the poll book or in the system and still be fed into the system. These people were manually entering it, and I have the table numbers where this was getting done, they're the county board numbers, and they didn't know. They were manually feeding it with a birth date of 1900 something. And when I asked the supervisor why they were manually being fed, they said they did not know, they're only doing their job, and if I have a problem, I can go talk to somebody up there. But the thing is, they didn't even know how to unlock the voter record when it gets jammed. Because I'm in IT and I can understand the code behind it, I had to literally help them.
Oh no, did I make chat too horny? Did I make chat too horny, guys? I'm sorry. It was irresponsible of me to bring up sex in our currently sexless society. But also rock hard and nope, keep going. Oh no. Oh no. But I do like that her story here is essentially that oh no. The quarantine libido. I awakened it. The ancient monster that lurks within all of us. But I do like that she's talking about the voting machines. And now this is something I can't profess to have a whole lot of expertise with, but I feel like having jams that add additional votes in the voting machines would be something that is like a construction slash software error. This seems like something that should not be happening. The beast with 2 packs. Oh no.
These people didn't have enough training, and they were just monotonously doing their job.
Yeah, like like I feel like there has to be a step that's not being talked about here, where they figure that out.
And whether it was intentional or not, again, I cannot witness to that. I can only tell what it was there for. And again, I just want to tell everybody here that when we became a vote challenger, our intent was not to get into fights with anybody. I'm an immigrant, and this country gave me a platform to be what I am today. I run a successful IT business. I'm one of the fastest 50 growing companies in America. And I really love this country. When I became a citizen of this country, it was a choice I made. I had to give up my Indian citizenship to become a U.S. citizen. It's a choice we all make. It's that's a country we grew up in, but this is a country we chose to live. So we just have a lot of respect for this country. Putting ourselves out here is not fun. Trying to get our names out there, trying to just kind of intimidate us.
Oh yeah, Venom Jesus. All of them have been pulling id poll.
For me to do this, it's really scary. It was very scary because I am a very private person. I have no social media accounts. I just like to live a very private life. But I knew what was at stake from what I witnessed at TCF, and my heart broke because I had a lot of respect. I still have a lot of respect for this country, and I don't believe in racism as like the mainstream media narrative. This country has given me a lot, and I'm very thankful for it. So today when I'm doing this, it's not because I'm trying to say who's good or who's bad. I'm just saying that this needs to be fixed. In a country like India, we have a national identification card, without which we cannot vote. When we come into this country, we have a retina scan, we have fingerprints, everything, when we're entering into this country through a border. How is that a vote, which is the single most important thing any person can do, is actually being cast without an ID, without any kind of oversight, and those ballots getting duplicated without an oversight, and all of this fraud that is happening, it was heartbreaking. So that's why I decided to put myself here.
All of this fraud that was happening was heartbreaking.
I don't even call them challengers, they were agitators. They were only there with one purpose. When GOP people or non-partisan people signed up, we were only trying to ensure that there was integrity, whereas when the Democratic challengers signed up, their only purpose there was to intimidate the GOP people and get them out. So that was what was happening on the 4th when I got on the floor. I didn't have my GOP tag on, so automatically I was assumed to be a Democrat, and I have seen some women who came to me and said, let's get these MFs out. and she was singing that song. And for me, I don't listen to secular music, and these days you can't even tell what is cussing and what is a song. So I thought maybe she was really singing a song. But then when I saw that she was targeting white male Republicans, accusing them of something like your mask slipped, you were not 6 feet away, so you need to go out, and your phone was out, and they were really intimidating all these white people. And I put myself out there trying to help them.
Wait, no, that woman wasn't intimidating white people. She was enforcing the mask restrictions and the distance restrictions. Like, you have those policies in place to protect people at the voting site. She's protecting people at the voting site.
Saying, why are you getting them in trouble? And they said, why are you taking their side? And then I showed my GOP tag. And then she said to me that I'm on the wrong side because I had a GOP tag on. I was literally shocked.
Oh my gosh, guys, you need to calm down on the sexual innuendo, okay? You need to calm down. No more of these spanks. Don't stop asking for spanks, please. Oh no. No. We can't do that in here, okay? I know we don't have an NSFW channel in the Discord, but you can't do that here. Oh gosh. Y'all know that there are people under 18 on Twitch. Y'all need Jesus. I agree. Time to break out the crop. God damn it.
Not I'm on the right side or wrong side. I can think for myself. But then at that point I saw that Republicans were getting us started, and so many people got us started that we became like pretty scarce. Like we couldn't even man, like we had only one person manning like 4 or 5 tables because we were so low on numbers, and there were so many Democratic challengers there. So I just went to Election Integrity Fund and got a nonpartisan tag. And the reason I did that was not because I was not there for my party or trying to do something on behalf of my party. I'm just trying to ensure that the right thing is being done. So when I got the nonpartisan tag, at the counting board, the poll workers were very respectful because of my nonpartisan tag. But when I had the GOP tag, the first thing they said is 6 feet. You know the rule or you will be sent out. And I'm like, when I had a nonpartisan tag, a lot of rules didn't apply to me. So that just told me that, those poll workers, the Democratic challengers, ACLU, and so many other people that were there.
Oh yeah, you can definitely be sex positive. That's fine. Just don't be begging for spankings in chat or I don't want people to wander into this channel and just see you like sexually role playing in chat. I feel like we need that line, okay? Yes, be more. The election is rigged. Republican boycott the Senate in Georgia. I agree. You're reading my mind. Absolute legend, be more over here. We saw all those trains hooking up last week. Oh no. Yeah, I mean, like, this is some really wild stuff that has been, like, honestly, guys, I didn't think that, like, sitting down and watching this would be as interesting and crazy as it has been, but this has been eye-openingly crazy. Like, just bringing up, like, and manipulating a poor woman who is doing the best she can, having someone sass back at the House of Representatives, having this woman come up being like, the Democrats were discriminating against the whites. I seen it. I think this is one of the craziest things I've seen in a while.
Their only job there was to block the GOP challengers from doing their job. And when I was with the nonpartisan tag and talking to Democratic challengers, most of them didn't even know what to challenge in a ballot. When I asked them a question, when I was asking supervisor a question, those people were literally confused because they didn't even know what I was asking. And then when I asked one lady, where did you get trained? She said, trained for what? Because they didn't know what they were there for. Their only job, I could tell there, was to block the GOP people from challenging or intimidate them and get them out.
And did you have something to say also about your experience?
Yeah, so because I was a volunteer, I came into my training around 9:30 p.m. at the PCF Center. 10 o'clock, we went down to the floor. I was stationed by the center of the room. The center of the room, they have all the boxes lined up, and then they have one table full of the duplicate ballots. So I'm sure you're all familiar with duplicate ballots, so they have duplicate ballots. Throughout the entire night, many employees were conducting theft of duplicate ballots. So they would come up to the table, help duplicate ballots, grab 3 or 4 duplicate ballots, run back to their table, give one to another person at another table, and never complete the duplicate process. They would stash the ballots under boxes, and I would have to stand there for about 5 minutes and just wait for a duplicate process, and they would just look at me. It was never ever completed. So that happened throughout the entire night. Then around 4:30 a.m. we had an announcement that a new shipment of ballots were arriving, and these boxes of ballots were brought in by Mr. Baxter himself at 4:30 a.m. from the rear of the room. So I personally eyewitnessed Mr. Baxter carrying boxes from the rear of the basements of the TCF Center into the tables. So each box, I approximate 600 ballots, and it was like a full, what you have to know is that these tables, there's like 7 tables. They were 10-foot tables each. Every table was full of boxes of ballots. It's not tens of thousands or 20,000s. Approximately 50,000 ballots were brought in. Now, were all of those ballots brought in from the rear entrance to the TCF Center? I don't know. They were brought in from the TCF Center, but there was a lot more than just the ones that were brought in from the rear entrance to the TCF Center. And I'm talking, this is the 6 a.m. This is when we're starting at 6 a.m. 4:35 a.m. There was 50,000 ballots on the table, equal to the 2 rounds that we did before. We did a round around 10 p.m. to about 1 a.m., then 1 a.m. to about 4 a.m., and then the boxes were brought from the rear around 4:30, and we had a shift change from around 5 to 6. So with the shift change, most of the volunteers were retired at this point. They only expected to be there from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So 90+% of them left at 5 a.m. I decided to stick around. So they had the shift change. At 6 a.m., Mr. Baxter and his management team got back on the microphone and said, this is what the new shift change, right? The new employees says, this is what democracy is supposed to look like. Right in front of everyone, the whole room cheered. So this is how you know it's a good sign of a violation, that there's an imbalance of poll workers. This is the new shift. Even the first shift before that would say the same thing. But this shift, you can tell it's again another imbalance of poll workers because the whole room cheered. So based off my sampling of 12 duplicate ballots from 6 a.m. to about 2 p.m. the next day, because I was doing duplicates, from these duplicate ballots I observed, none of them were for Trump. None of them. And from the other 2 shifts or 2 rounds that we did earlier, only 1 ballot that I witnessed from a duplicate was for Trump. So I'm talking just a dozen off my sampling from that 1 shift of 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
But what?
The whole time we saw 1.
What? But he's. You're counting the duplicates. You're addressing the problem of there being duplicates. That's literally what your job is in the election. What? You're catching issues and duplicates so that they're only counted once instead of twice. Yeah. Our system is set up to catch this. What the fuck are you talking about? All right, whatever.
3 other challengers around me told me the same thing from their sampling. So, also we challenged ballots all night.
Again, why? It doesn't matter if these are coming from multiple people. If the ballots are for Biden or Trump, either way, you cancel out one of them, so that there's only one vote. That's literally what your job is in the election.
Refused. They never carried it out. They never issued challenge ballots. There's no track, no remedy, no records, no recording of any challenge ballots the entire night. So we challenged. Poll workers changed duplicate ballots to straight Democrat ticket. So for example, it would be like a mixed ticket, bubbles filled everywhere. I witnessed employees taking their pen and filling in the Democrat straight ticket when it's not. And so you're gonna have other people testify that when it goes to adjudication that they see 2 different parties filled in, and then 9 times out of 10 you're also gonna have testimony too that says that the employees were saying she chose the Democrats. That's true. Because there's 200 tables, aren't because of how many tables there are. 5 employees per table, and they all have pens, and I witnessed them writing a ticket, putting a straight Democrat ticket. So I also witnessed like duplicates of duplicate ballots, which was very strange to me. We were making a duplicate, take it back to the tabulator, and again, make another duplicate of duplicate. I personally asked the employees, hey, why are we making, first verify, is this a duplicate of duplicate? They said yes. I said why? They said the tabulator says unknown reasons. Okay. So, and then I also at the tabulator did see the double counting on the jams. I saw that several times. They would take the ballots that were just scanned and just rescan again once there would be a jam. And then around 2 p.m., I leave the room for about 5 minutes to grab a snack because they're saying, snacks are coming in, go grab a snack, go ahead. I leave the room 2 p.m. The minute I leave the room, they block out the whole room with coverings. They prohibited access back in.
I like that he's simultaneously alleging that there is this massive conspiracy that he's been a witness to, but also that he was just going about his normal business, participating in tabulating this election instead of immediately reporting it to authorities. I'm sorry, B More. Weed's great. I wish I had some right now. Actually, I kind of do. I have CBD weed. It's not the same. But he's just in this, you would think that if you saw something going wrong here, you would just go and tell someone about it instead of going about your day, going to get your snack,
For me, and they said it's because
instead you just have this situation where they're like, yeah, I saw some weird stuff.
This room was slammed. It looked like the New York Stock Exchange on its busiest day. And then at 2 p.m. the next day, after 70% of the employees have already finished their work, they left the room. Now they're replacing the exceeded vote capacity rules, which was pure discrimination.
All right, thank you.
Wait, how is that discrimination? All right, whatever.
And one thing to the ballot recognition. I was at table 57 where I said that I saw a tag of ballots which had a sticky note on it saying not in ETB/S. They didn't know what that meant, but it didn't take me long to figure out why it was saying.
CBD is legal here, but actual weed is not. I think medical marijuana is where we're at.
So it is EPP/S, meaning election poll for system. So none of these details were in either of those. And the thing that I said, when I started writing down the ballot numbers and the last names of the person on the ballot that had the name on the ballot, they were all in sequence. These are absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. They cannot be in sequence. 2232 cannot have 2233 next to it, because if they're mailed in, they come in all different numbers. And when I started noticing that these numbers are almost next to each other, like one or the other was in the middle, but then they were almost next to each other, my antennas went up. That's exactly when I thought something is not right here. Then I asked the supervisor, there was not even a date on those envelopes. It said November 0-2020. There was no second number there. Then I said, what is the date on this one? Then they got really mad at me. They said, you're not letting us do our job. You're disturbing us. And at that point, because we really don't want to be kicked out, so we were just kind of not challenging anything because we want to still stay in the room because we barely had anybody. Not only that, these sequence ballot numbers were all from the same area, like the Goddard Street in the downtown Detroit. Goddard Street, sequential ballots, signatures were all alike. They had no date stamp. It said, like, it was empty after 0. There was no third or second or first or nothing. And they were
Of course, the Garden Street, the secret. They've discovered the secret ballot packing plant. This must have been where China set up their secret ballot machine to vote for candidates with dead voter IDs. Fuck, this is stupid.
They were all being entered manually. They even knew that none of these details would even be in the poll book or in the system.
All right. Well, with that, thank you both for your testimony. We're going to go into questions now. I'll start with Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here. Most of the testimony we had tonight. You talked about the 6-foot rule being kicked out for that. There was a court case prior to the election dealing with this, and it's saying that you had to allow a poll challenger to break that 6-foot rule to verify information. Right? I got 3 good eyes on myself. I can't see someone's written address from 6 feet away. The court case made it very clear that they did have to allow that. Now, you're not challenging. You have to keep your 6 feet. Were people allowed to break the 6-foot rule to challenge? And then my second part, when the Republican challengers were kicked out, were they allowed to be replaced by another one? Because it was very evident that there were plenty of other possible Republican challengers there. Were they replaced by one or not?
I'll take the first thing you said. The first one, when you said the 6-foot rule, we were in fact given a paper with these rules saying that we can break the 6-foot rules when we have to challenge the ballot. We even had the printed paper with us, and when we would show it to the supervisor, he'd say, we are enforcing the rules that we were given. That's the rules your team that sent you gave you. We don't have to abide by it because that does not apply to us. And we have to keep low profile. You have to understand if we don't want to be kicked out. If we don't want to, I may not be because I'm brown, but all I'm saying is, but that was my trump card that I used all day. But then the thing is, that's not a privilege for a white person. So white people, I could see, were not even daring to ask a question because if they were even a little bit louder, they would say, you're disturbing them, so they need to get out. And you have to understand the poll workers were ganging up with Democrats. They were all in on the same team, and the only people that are being isolated are the Republican, white, male Republicans. So
the poor white male Republicans, the beleaguered white males working for the Republican Party. Just, oh my goodness, the whites are so oppressed in America. The straight white men, straight white cis men, Republicans. One of the most oppressed groups in society, really. No one really talks about how Republican men, especially white Republican men, are just, always being kept down by the man. You know how you walk into a room as like a whitey, and suddenly it just goes quiet as everyone kind of looks at you? You know how you go into a store sometimes, and like one of the store employees follows you around because you're a white man and you're a Republican, and you're like, why are you following me, bro? And the store owner goes, well, because you're white and you might steal something. We know how you white people are with your stealing of indigenous land. We know how you whites are. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes here in America.
People ask me, was I ever treated unfairly? I would say fairly. Come to India, you'll know what racism is. But here, no, I've been treated with a lot of respect.
Oh.
Now I see white people.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't know what racism is here in the United States, where we enslaved people on the basis of their skin color for literally centuries. Yeah, we don't know anything about racism here. We just tried to genocide indigenous people. Yeah, we don't know anything about racism here. India's the only place where real racists live. This is true. Fuck this lady.
Are being treated as, so much worse than I was ever treated. So those people were not able to really loudly challenge because they will get kicked out. They did not want to abide by the rule where we can make that 6-foot rule to challenge a ballot because they didn't want to listen to what we had to say.
As for the second question, no.
They were not being required.
What a Karen. This lady's just a Karen.
Republicans were not replaced. So when a Republican challenger was escorted out, they were not allowed to be replaced by anyone.
The only ones walking through were the media, not no challengers from our side. I would say there was two separate systems. There was our systems where we were executed COVID capacity, fall in line, follow the rules, and then there was the friendly welcoming. Oh, you're the media, come on in. Oh, who are you with? You're with them, come on in.
Another thing I also have to say is when the GOP people were
You
getting
could tell she was by how she
without
dressed.
handcuffs,
True.
Every poll worker
A young
all
Karen.
stood and
Yep.
clapped like it was some kind of, they all won a lottery ticket. And that is exactly when I decided I'm going to do this, because that was heartbreaking, because these people were doing a job, a volunteer job. They were not getting paid. They all were doing their work to be here for their country, to ensure election integrity. And they were treated like criminals, and that's not fair.
Not America. Representative Lorraine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could just ask you the same question I asked the last one.
Oh, yeah, we might have a Becky on our hands. True. True.
Like, when did you give them the story?
I didn't read any from lawyers because I was working for election integrity fund. I gave my affidavit the same day on November 4th.
Okay, so you...
I don't know what happened with those affidavits, and I never met anyone from company. I don't know.
Speaking to the microphone.
You filed, you said you filed an affidavit on this in November. Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
checked all the ballot numbers, the vaccine, the table number, everything that I did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeGrand. Next, we'll go
Wait,
to
what does a Becky
Representative
mean in your community?
Thank you. I just want to try to understand what this was like when somebody tried to challenge a ballot. So, you would say I challenge a ballot, then what?
Oh.
A series of events.
Even before the supervisor or the poll worker would respond to the challenge, the Democrats would just pounce and say, what are you challenging? And then when we tried to give them what was the basis for challenge, like as I said, they had no clue because they were not trained. Their only training was about the GOP people. So when we would say this is what they're challenging, they'd be like, they clueless, obviously. And then the poll workers, they would be hostile. And they're like, we're not going to stop what we're doing. If you have a problem, you go take it up with the supervisors. They were all in on it together, so nobody was going to listen to it. Not a single challenge was ever entered. And this was the same thing happening.
So then if you went to the supervisor, he would not do anything?
No, nobody would do anything.
So in addition to that, when there was no Democrat challenger, which I witnessed in the minority of times, I would make a challenge, and the head of the table would say, you know, what's wrong? And I would say, this is wrong. And they say, no, that's not wrong. And I said, no, I'm challenging it. So, I mean, for example, just one example, I challenge you for filling in the Democrat shirt ticket. Is that, can I challenge that? No, it's not a challenge. No, I'm just pushing through it.
Thank you. Representative C.A. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, wait, just because you're challenging something doesn't mean the stuff on it is wrong. No, you cannot legally slap Linda's. I'm sorry. When I was in college, I was a shoe salesman, and the place I worked at explicitly said we would not sell Nike or Adidas shoes because those brands attracted black people. Holy moly. We were also not to accept checks from black people. This was in 2007 to 2009? That's wild. I remember being shocked at the overt nature of racism, like, wow. I also wondered what they thought of me because I'm more ethnic white, sometimes mistaken for Latino, so I'm like, what the fuck? It's sad. Yeah, that's wild, Only Facts Live. Jeez. It's like calling someone a dick sucker. Okay. Due to a song that was made many years ago. Oh, Becky with the good hair? Wait, was it Becky with the good head? Oh no. I've been misremembering the lyrics all this time. Oh no. Oh. Oh no. My mom was told to just throw away applications from black applicants. Okay, good. Okay. Whew. Okay, I'm glad it's Bookie with the good hair. Gotcha. My hometown still has a black side of town and a white side of town, just the way it is. Well, yeah, like, redlining has an immense amount of power in current day economics. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, the economic forces of the past continue on. You know, we don't have any policies that, like, reversed redlining, you know? I found a new thing for you, the Green Book. Oh yeah, I know about the Green Book. It's a rap song. Gotcha.
Chair. Mr. Chair, please indulge me. As a woman from the city of Detroit, a woman who has lived, I'm talking about me now, who has lived in the city of Detroit all of my 62 years, and having spoken with many, and by the way, thank you.
Oh, I didn't realize, I I think she's about to get chewed the fuck out.
Having spoken with many people who worked the TCF, TFC. TCF.
All right, let's let Representative Johnson continue, and please get to your question, Representative.
I will. So my question, really, to you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to repeat it again. These people, our guests, are sharing information, just sharing and sharing and speaking and speaking. No one is under oath. The world is watching us right now.
True.
And the world is watching right now. And there are one person after another who's testifying or who's making allegations, because that's exactly what they are, allegations of wrongdoing in the city of Detroit. I wonder, and I'm going to ask you the question, did you see any cameras at the TCF Center? All right, so.
And Representative, I just want to remind you, I think it was the purpose of today's hearing to hear from people across Michigan who witnessed things at the DCF Center.
Well, you know, here, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. Okay, so they're here, but they're taking so much time.
I have no idea.
And I see no Detroiters. There is one Detroiter. Stop that. And there is one Detroiter, but I have many emails, since there's no one who you have in this room.
Yeah, a lot of powerful stories in chat.
Detroiters, except a couple of us in this room. I have emails from Detroiters. We've taken, what, 2 hours?
What's your, did you have a question? I'm willing. Please stop yelling. People in the audience, let me handle this. Representative, listen, we've had hearings in the past, as you know. We'll have more hearings. Today, we've invited Mr. Giuliani, and Mr. Giuliani has brought forward witnesses that he says have firsthand knowledge of fraud. That's what we are doing today.
And if we want to find out if...
Please let me finish.
Yes.
All right, so if you want to do other hearings, we're doing more hearings. But today we're here to hear from these people. So do you have a question for these witnesses?
No, I have some concerns,
Well,
many concerns, and I wanted to
I'm gonna
share
rule
with
you
you
out of order.
what the concerns
Do you have a
are.
point of order?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a point of order?
Yes.
What is your point of order?
Point of order is to have them under oath.
You're out of order. As I've said, this is something that is not done here in this state. It's really only...
It may not be done under the state, but you're allowing people to come in here and lie, and I know they're lying.
Representative, you're out of order. I've indulged you, but you're out of order, and we're going to move on.
And on behalf of my witnesses, I would like to point out that every single witness we've presented here has sworn an affidavit as to all of these facts.
So put them under oath, Rudy. Why don't you want them to be put under oath? They've sworn an affidavit, so they should have no problem going under oath. Right, Rudy? Wow, yeah, it's nuts. I've been mistaken for Hispanic, Arab, Italian, Jewish, white, Eastern European, Indian, Native American, etc. And when I'm with white people, which is 99% of the time in the South, it feels weird seeing racism and being seemingly on the privileged side of it. If that makes any sense. Or like when cops asked me why I was on the black side of town in Tulsa and that I should get back to my side of town, which is whiter and richer, and I say that with regards. Jeez Louise. I'm sorry, guys.
Representative, please, I gave you some room there, but we're going to move on. We're going to go...
I gave you some room there. You just let her, you barely let her talk. You didn't even let her read the emails.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
If that is what you want me to do, I will do it.
Awesome. Put yourself under oath, please.
And I will still repeat the exact same thing I watched. And you know what? I also want to say one thing. If it is a lie, it may change because a liar has to have a lot of memory power. If it is true, you can ask me in the the middle of the night, it'll still be the same.
Excellent. Let's hold you to that. Let's hold you to that, lady.
Please, we're going to move on now to Representative LaFave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it very much. Audience members, we're not going to be able to get to the end of this if we continue with interruptions, so I'd ask a little bit more patience with us. I have 2 questions, as we have 2 witnesses. That's okay, Mr. Chairman.
If there are relevant questions, I will let you proceed.
If they're not relevant, Mr. Chairman, please rule me out of order. I would appreciate it. Question number 1, as I heard from...
What a brown noser.
Hima, call the 90 ready.
Hima, thank you.
You want to try that?
I'm going to try it once. I'm not going to try it twice. I'm making a bad memory. I heard that there are sequential ballots from one street called Goddard Street that have no dates. Approximately how many would you say?
Each box would have 50 ballots. There were about 2-3 boxes there. I was already tired because we have no chairs. So I took down, after 20-25 names, there's no point because you can see what's going on. So
Ben Shapiro? Maybe.
Gave a small affidavit to Election Integrity Fund. And I said, this is what I witnessed, these are the names, these are the ballot numbers. And this is, not the address, but then I told them that Goddard Street is something that just stood out because it's been on the highway, so I know that name. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. And we were told not to challenge anything at that point because they said this entire process needs to be challenged, so don't challenge, try to stay in, try not to get kicked out. So that's what I was doing.
Very helpful, thank you. Andrew, approximately how many duplicate ballots did you see in general? And then, if you could, approximately how many of those duplicate ballots, and these are your words, not mine, do you believe were stolen or taken off of the table and brought to places that you believe they shouldn't have been brought to?
So, as my responsibility to stand in the center of the room by the duplicate table, an employee would come up.
Yeah,
and
she didn't provide any evidence.
For example, just to bring this term, let's say there's a coffee stain on the ballot, right? Which none of these ballots had any real issues, from as far as I know, they're all typewriter issues. But they would come, grab a ballot, and my responsibility was to follow them to their table, to be the challenger, to observe over it. So there'd be me, there'd be the workers, there'd be a Democrat challenger, we'd observe over it. Throughout the entire time I volunteered, I would say between 2 dozen to 3 dozen. And there were times where we had people stationed around the room. And so if there was someone who was stationed, like a Michigan GOP volunteer, right, was in a specific area, I would tell that employee, hey, watch over this duplicate ballot because I need to run back to the center of the room in case someone steals more ballots again. So they would do that. If there was someone who was
In
there,
case
they
someone
would
steals
watch
more
over
ballots.
it
Okay,
2
sure.
to 3 dozen throughout the whole night. So that's the first part of the question. The duplicate theft started in the beginning of the night. Roughly 10:30 p.m., 10:15 p.m. I saw theft of duplicate ballots. They would grab 3, 4. So no clear number. The number that I saw was probably the first.
Oh yeah, I mean Disco-Rat, that's why it's not being done in a courtroom.
Second shift, it was more hectic, and I would say roughly the same thing. But you also take into consider that the third shift from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. the next day, and also
the video volume is all the way up, but I can turn it up a tiny bit more. Is that better?
And we have less people, so there's more opportunity for that. Does that help a little bit?
Absolutely, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Camilleri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if what you're saying about the tabulation of ballots is true, that some of these ballots were counted multiple times, why is it that there are not more ballots than those who were tabulated in our poll book?
I do not know how your system works. I do not. One thing I know is there were several ballots that were not in the poll book or in the system.
I don't know how your system works. Then why the fuck are you talking about discrepancies in the system, lady?
And they were being entered manually. So how are you finally taking a tally of it? I do not know that. All I'm here to tell is what I witnessed. I do not know either how you put all of this data together and how you come up with a number. And if it's tallied like a balance sheet, great. I don't think we would be here if that's tallied. My best guess is it did not, so that's why we're going through all this.
What I'm saying is that in total, the registered number of voters in Detroit is about 500,000 around. The total ballots cast is around 250,000. And so we don't see multiples here. And many other people allege that there were far more people who voted than those who live in the city of Detroit. That does not add up.
Thank you, Representative.
That was not part of my testimony.
I think you asked a question, and she said she wasn't familiar.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. With that, I think we appreciate it. I did want to ask you though, do you have any? I mean, both of you have been there on the front lines. You've been there in the TCF Center. You talked today about what you witnessed. Do you have any suggestions for us as legislators on policies or things that we should look at in terms of how do we prevent some of these things from happening to people like you again in the future? Have you put any thought into that? Like if you were to see new laws or things that need to be looked at in terms of preventing in the next election some of these things from happening at the TCF Center?
We are blind. I appreciate you.
Where a lot of things go wrong. Our country is known for corruption. But when it comes to elections, there is, from what I've seen here to what we used to do back in India, it is a lot more organized now because we have an identification system. And the fact that now, as the other representatives said, that you can actually show up and vote without an ID, it's shocking. How can you allow that to happen? Like, a lot of people think all Indians look alike. I think all Chinese look alike. So how would you tell? If some Chow shows up, you can be anybody and you can...
If some Chow shows up? Whew, boy. Lady, you run a business. supposedly this person runs like one of the 50 fastest growing companies in the United States. And she just said she thinks all Chinese people look the same. Also, yeah, voter ID laws. Guys, here's a fun fact for you. Do you know where voter ID laws come from? They come from the American Legislative Executive Council, ALEC. They come from a council of companies that advocates for certain positions. Do you want to know why voter ID laws are a thing? Because one of the main proponents behind ALEC are private prisons. And an easy way to get people into private prisons to make them money is voter ID laws that people unintentionally violate. Yeah, look at Rudy's hand. Oh gosh, he knows that this was just a giant fuck up. Oh no. Good catch there, Mooderblind. Jack Karaoke, hello! I don't think I've seen you in my chat before. I hope you enjoy your time here, friend. I heard that before and was like, is that a slur so gross I haven't ever heard it? I don't know. I was expecting like a... So vote with no ID? Yeah, like we literally... Like, the rate of voter fraud in this country is so low, why do we need voter ID laws? Like, it literally doesn't solve anything. The reason conservatives push voter ID laws is because it puts a financial barrier, a financial and time barrier in front of minorities going to vote. That's legitimately why it's in place. If you have, the more barriers you have, even if it's a $50 fee or something like that, the less people are going to be inclined to do it. So, what's the problem? I mean, the problem is a lot of people in this country don't have, ID should be free and available online. I mean, maybe, but also that takes time to figure out. Why force people to get IDs when they don't need them? Like that's the real question. Like, why do you need people to get IDs? What problem is that solving? Schools do issue them. I had a school ID for high school and college. So like, yeah, like the issue is we don't have a need for voter ID. Like the push for voter ID is to solve a problem that doesn't exist in America. Schools should issue state IDs? I mean, maybe, but I don't think there's any... again, this is a problem... This is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Voter ID is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist at a fundamental level. I had to have birth certificate, 2 forms of current ID, and 2 proofs of address just to get my damn ID. Yeah, I haven't been able to get my my newest updated driver's license because of the laws regarding like needing a birth certificate. I need like my last bank statement. I need like a picture ID that is current within 6 months. Like, it's ridiculous. I haven't been able to muster the time and energy to go do it. I guess they want to make sure you're a USA citizen, though. But again, you can't vote without proof of, like... No. Oh, gosh. Okay, be more. If you can prove to me that non-citizens voting is a huge problem, then maybe I'll change my mind on voter ID laws, okay? If you can prove to me that election fraud and non-citizens and dead people voting is a huge issue, then I'll change my mind. The reason I'm saying that, though, is because you can't do it. Because if you could, then I am very, very sure that the Voter Fraud Commission created by Chris Kobach and Mike Pence back in 2018 would have found evidence of widespread voter fraud. The claims that millions of illegal immigrants vote, they're just not true. They're not true. But again, Linky, like, it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. It's not a huge problem that is threatening our democracy. The bigger problem to our democracy are people like these bullshitters that we've been watching for the last couple hours.
Can vote, and if somebody with my name, you can't even tell my name. Anybody can vote on my behalf. So ID should be the basic requirement.
Let's let her testify, everyone. We want to allow the witnesses to speak. Thank you.
ID should be the basic thing, and there should be a cutoff date as to when you can request an invalid. It can't be like you can show up the same day.
Well, again, you could do that, Disco Rat, but my point is, it's a solution to a problem we don't have. Why are we looking for this solution to a problem that doesn't exist?
And request it, you give it the same day. The whole purpose of the ballot is defeated. I think you can put a lot of measures, maybe put policies that this does not get repeated. Because, and again, the fact that there was not a Republican president on every counting board, that was also a shocker. A lot of people I know from my own church, they wanted to work as a poll worker, but they were told that the positions were full, so they don't need any more Republicans. If only there was a Republican president at every table, maybe a lot of this would have been avoided. And also, I think, you know, that the whole vitriol of the entire poll workers that were there, that to me was a shocking thing. I would expect a lot more respect. These are all fellow Americans. If it was an immigrant like me, at least maybe it's understandable, but these are all fellow Americans. Why would you hate them just because of their political affiliation? Maybe that could change. You know, we're talking a lot about hate.
Yeah, why would someone in America hate someone else based on their political affiliation? Why would a gay Democratic man hate a Republican who votes on anti-gay measures? Yeah, why? Well, I wonder why. I wonder why a trans person might be angry at Republicans who voted for an administration that took away their right to serve in the military and earn a living.
BLM and everything. How about we also just extend it to, you know, the white males or, you know, whoever is being also treated very, you know, that's discrimination.
I mean, again, Disco Rat, I'm not sure if you're making a joke or something, but no, again, the issue is that we don't need plastic IDs, mostly because, again, the problem that they're seeking to solve is voter fraud, and we don't have a problem with voter fraud in this country. It's not to do with personal freedom.
What I noticed, and this is an outsider perspective.
Do you want to answer the question? Do you have any suggestions for us?
I mean, simply, we just can't let it happen. The way we do it is up to you, and that can change. You have to think about it. If law changes over time, it's going to continue changing for the next thousands of years, but we simply can't let this happen, because if we don't let this happen, then reality will change for the next thousands of years. So I would suggest maybe better...
Reality will change for the next thousands of years? What? Hey, bold of you to, Disco Rat, you've lost me. I'm irritated. I feel like I'm being made fun of, but I don't know how, and it's irritating me. But also, bold of him to assume that the United States is going to stand for thousands of years. Very bold stance.
After the election, because clearly we're now heading to December. We don't want to cut it this close. We need, in the short term, you know, a body that can say the day after the election, 2 days after the election, oh, you know, there's 20,000 dead voters, wipe them out immediately. This should be apolitical, not political. They're just clearly dead. You know, have the database enforce it. Why are dead voters still now that they're certified now? And I'm not trying to make a political statement, but
But none of your testimony had anything to do with dead voters. What? Huh?
Certified that knowingly.
Thank you. Well, I know you both are very brave coming here today, and I I understand shocking the things that you've said today about what you witnessed at the PCF Center, so thank you both for your
Recall, my main issue is that I don't think that validating the beliefs of armed racist religious fanatics is a good strategy.
Is here. Please, when you're ready. Mr. Walden, can you explain why you're here, what your background is, your expertise, and when you're ready, please begin.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to look at some statistical analysis. I work with a team that's been looking at the voter manipulation, election manipulation since November of 18. I started looking at this issue in August of this year, doing a deep dive on several key areas with some of the electronic voting machine companies. And we started looking at some of
But wait, you work with a team? Tell us what team you work for. What? Are you just like a bunch of hobbyists or enthusiasts? Do you work for like an actual company that's doing these things? What? I just want to understand. Dead voters are historically conservative. Oh gosh.
the vulnerabilities that have been mentioned on the floor of the U.S. Congress and Senate that have been widely published in publicly available documentaries. So we began looking at the problems immediately after the election, doing analysis on the data, and then we also looked at did some forensics on a couple of locations up in northern Michigan, in Central Lake Township and Antrim, and then talked to some folks at Star Township. And all this information.
Yeah, the researchers.
In a nutshell, we began to look at anomalies in the voting systems. We looked at publicly available information from your state. First thing we noticed was that there are 643 precincts in Michigan with voter turnout above 8%, which is a little bit anomalous. There were 21 precincts that were over 9%, 10 precincts that had exactly 100% voter turnout, and 6 precincts that were over 120% voter turnout. So as we began to look at that, my team focused on anomalous patterns where votes were entered in an amount of time that was physically impossible for the tabulation machines to process the votes. And so we found four spikes in the analysis that exceeded the tabulation machine's ability to process that amount of votes in a timeline. And that was in Kent County, Macomb County, Oakland County, and Wayne County. And again, this data was from Dominion and published in open source. So those anomalies pointed us to a couple other things that some of your previous witnesses, like I just heard tonight, but the incremental absentee vote punches where there was a big move from 6:52 on the morning of the 4th, 16,000 absentee votes were processed. Between 6:52 and 7:49 local time on the 4th, an additional 213,429 absentee votes were processed. This aligns with some of the observations that the previous witnesses made. And then at 11:15 that same morning, a time period of about 8 minutes, which correlates to the time our previous witness, Jesse, testified, there was 56,098 votes processed in an 8-minute period. And each one of these machines can process about 20,000 votes an hour, so you can do the math yourself, or it's in our affidavit. So the anomalous activity.
I still want to know who this guy is working for. This is bothering me immensely.
That just looking at the data, that there were red flags for fraudulent activities, and we have subsequently asked for our team or someone else to do the forensic analysis to determine exactly what happened with those votes and those spikes that could not have been mathematically processed with the amount of machines that were present in the facilities. Our team also went up to northern Michigan to Central Lake Township. We do have an affidavit from Ms. Judith Koslowski. While we were up there, she had a tabulation or retabulation, and showed a pretty significant amount of change in the votes. We published an affidavit with those key elements that showed differences in the data runs and the tapes, and we've provided that to you as well. And then a declaration by Robert Marsh, the Star Township supervisor, a couple of the excerpts. When he said, upon examining the tape at the close of the polls, I could see that President Trump had clearly won the presidential race in Star Township. He said, I believe the numbers were 462 for President Trump, with Joe Biden receiving 161 votes. Normally when a candidate has such a large lead, it's safe to assume who the winner would be. Early next morning, my wife received a phone call from a friend asking what happened in Antrim County going blue, meaning Democrat. At 7:36 that morning, I was texting our staff representative, Tristan Cole, to find out if those were the actual results. At the time, Tristan advised me that the numbers were not right, that Antrim County was reporting 462 votes had been credited to Joe Biden, and President Trump had only received 10 votes. So we saw numerous examples of numbers moving, numbers being flipped, switched, and you realize the Antrim County is where the 6,000 vote glitch occurred. And if you look at the numerous references in the guidelines for elections in the Help America Vote Act, the Federal Election Commission Voting System Standards, and the Federal Information Security Modernization Act, an error rate is permissible for 1 out of 125,000 ballots. And if you look at just what happened in Antrim County, the error rate was 8.3, so it puts it about 750 times the allowable limit. And according to the regulations, that should have disqualified. They went later and changed that from a glitch to a clerical error, which kind of changed up the reporting on that a little bit.
In a nutshell, we found several other things using open source data. There is a gentleman named Eric Letson, and he has matched up a list. He started looking at voters above the age of 80 that were registered for voting and did vote in Michigan. And 17,327 Michigan voters also had a corresponding obituary. And I didn't print that whole thing out, but I can give you that website for the tabular data, and it's about 350 pages or so. So in the essence of time, I'll close it out. Be happy to chat if there's any other specific information I can provide to you about our findings.
Sure, thank you. So I just want to understand, I mean, I think you know was there something you were going to add?
I was going to ask a few minutes on Dominion.
Okay.
Probably know quite a bit about it. He's one of the few people that examined their machine.
Okay, well, let me ask my question, and then we'll ask you about Dominion too. I just want to understand, so we had the Antrim County Clerk in here, and we had her testify earlier this, within the last few weeks. And one thing that I found from her testimony is that she seemed not to be very well trained. Her clerks locally did not seem to be very well trained, and they basically they didn't seem to know how to work their machines. They didn't seem to run the proper tests from the testimony that would have discovered the mistakes. And then when the election happened, and we saw the 6,000 votes that went for Biden, and Congressman Bergman found that and reported it, and then they looked at it and they said, "What happened here?" And she said it was a technical glitch or whatever she said. Well, that came from her office, and now, a few days later, or whatever it was, she alleged it was human error. And that's what she said later. So, based on that, I mean, what we have to go on in this committee is the testimony we've heard. And based on what she said, that looked like it was human error. If we go off what she said that the tape matched. She said this would have been discovered in a canvas because the tape matched.
I actually agree with Redmond Berry. But I do think that we need to have, I think we should have better trained people. We need to invest more in our election infrastructure. And I think that funding should come from the federal government.
So I just wanted to hear if you have knowledge of this, if there's anything you can speak to on this, because that was the conclusion that I had come to after hearing her, that this was limited to Antrim County. And again, like I said, Dominion won't come in, so I don't know more. But I know in Antrim County, it sure seemed like the clerk there didn't know what she was doing, and that caused a lot of this problem and confusion. So can you tell us more about what you learned and address that for me? Thank you.
Yes, our forensics team went up to the Central Lake Township.
And can you clarify, is that in Antrim County?
It is in Antrim County. This was included the forensics report on Central Lake Township in Antrim, Michigan. The report date was November 29th, 2020. And on the 27th, the ASI forensics team, which is Allied Security Operations Group forensics team, visited the Central Lake Township in Michigan. The clerk presented the two separate paper totals tape from the tabulator with the identification number ID2, tabulator ID2. One was dated poll open November 3rd, 063848, which is roll 1, and the second dated poll open November 6th, 2020, 092158, which was.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that, Redmond Berry.
Nancy, what does that mean?
That's why our system has redundancies.
There were two tapes.
November 3rd,
or at least most systems do.
November 6th.
And there were two tapes.
Two tapes. They ran the ballots, and for roll 2, she was asked by the county clerk's office to come in and do a retabulation on the 6th.
Okay, so there was a one run through with and a ticket printed, and we went through that with the clerk. There's a ticket that shows the result.
Correct.
On November 3rd on election day.
Then a retabulation.
On November 6th.
Correct.
And you're saying that was ordered by the county clerk?
By the county clerk's office. She said she was notified by Connie Wing of the county clerk's office and asked to bring the tabulator and ballots to the county clerk's office for retabulation.
Okay, so what did you find when you looked at that?
They ran roll 1 had a total of 1,494 total votes. Roll 2 had 1,491 votes. They had 2 3-left ballots because 3 ballots were damaged in the retabulation process. So Ms. Kozlowski said that she and her assistant manually refilled out the 3 ballots, curing them and ran it through a ballot counting system. But the final numbers did not reflect the inclusion of those 3 ballots. So the shifts in the votes from tape 1 or roll 1 to roll 2 on election night, President Trump received 566 votes. Vice President Biden received 340 votes. On the recount, Trump had 1 less vote at 565, while Biden was unchanged at 340. The other areas on the down ballot where we saw a lot of different number shift was a proposed ordinance to authorize marijuana and then a retail establishment within the village of Central Lake. So those were the ballot proposal to authorize marijuana went from not passing to passing by shifting votes and removing when the recount, the 3 ballots were not counted, the proposal passed with 1 vote. And then for school board, even though this was a ranked voting, and the top 2 apparently were going to be elected, there was a significant number of votes. There were 742 votes added to this total. Between the election, there were 1,068 votes, and then on the recount, there were 1,810 votes that showed 112 write-in candidates. The school board memberships were significant, as well as there was a change in the state proposal 20-1. There was a change in those numbers. So the way that works, the township clerk was given 2 compact flashcards as a security key. One of the compact flashcards is known as the ISD card, so it goes into the administrator slot, and then the CF card goes into the poll worker slot. And there's a security key that's used on security key. So Ms. Kozlowski was given the cards that were in prior retention, and we ran the tapes. The difference in the administrator card, which is the software loader, The poll numbers were pretty much the same, but votes in between those two runs shifted. So there's a discrepancy in forensics.
How do you find
The discrepancy in the actual tapes. In the tabulation.
one machine?
One machines.
You mean everything?
We did a lot of mistakes.
Did you do anything well?
It got pretty close to the other votes, but it did not meet with the standards of the federal election. We have not examined forensically in this election more than this machine. It's pretty much been black. So definitely is far outside the limits of the 1 in 250,000 vote error rate.
So,
Based on that, you want to examine one machine?
Yes, sir.
just to understand, so what the clerk has said, is that, I heard you say there were two tapes, and you kind of went through how there were some differences on the two tapes. What the clerk has said is that, there was a problem basically with the way the count was displayed on the website, but that when they looked at the tape, that the count was accurate, and that wasn't caught in the canvas. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
So that the votes were canvassed on election night, according to Ms. Kozlowski, and approved, and for some reason that she did not know, she was asked to come back in to read it. She said, this is the declaration of Ms. Judith L. Kozlowski, and it's signed and dated, and this declaration is under penalty of perjury. She said on November 5th, I was contacted by election night to close polls after the absentee ballots entered into the tabulator. We'll take our IC cards to the machine and take them, the security fob, and the results of the electronic poll book to the county clerk's office that night. She said, I received my ISD cards when I went to the county building, received my precinct kits from Connie Wing prior to the election, and never received nor was made aware of an update because I did not need any updates. On Thursday, November 5th, I was contacted by Connie Wing of the county clerk's office and asked that I bring my tabulated block ballot container and tabulator to the clerk's office for retabulation. Because the time constraints, the retabulation did not occur, I was asked to return on Friday, November 6th. I was given the ISD cards and security fob. We set it up and the retabulation began at 9, and we finished at 8:55. Retabulation was done in the presence of the Antrim County Board of Canvassers and the Antrim County Sheriff, along with the Deputy Clerk, Patricia Marshall. At the completion of the retabulation, all the voted ballots from November 3rd, I asked if the Board of Canvassers was ready for me to close the poll and run the tally tape, which I did. It was this time that I noticed the number of votes cast on November 6th had changed from the tape on November 3rd. So I stated to the board that numbers had changed. The board did not respond to my comment. To this date, I still do not know why Central Lake Township was the only township that had to retabulate. Other township clerks asked me why I had to do this, and I could not explain. And that is bullet item number 5 on her declaration. So that's what I know.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll go to Representative Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your analysis, you talked about how the number of votes coming in were at a rate higher than they could actually process through the machines. Correct. This is after the polls are closed?
Yes, sir. This is,
forgive my ignorance here, but the way I understood it is that the numbers don't get counted one by one. A precinct will count all their ballots, and then they submit all their numbers. So the fact that there's a lot of numbers coming in within a short period of time isn't because a bunch of ballots also get counted. It's because machines from all over the state that have been counting for hours all day long finally decided to upload their information. Okay, am I missing something here? That's how I always understood how these things work is, I look and see Wayland, I go, I vote, they, I think 7 to 8 o'clock, they shut down, they do everything, and then they upload it. They didn't all of a sudden run through 1,000 votes. Those 1,000 votes were counted over hours and hours.
so the timeline of the reporting, which is it's got timestamps on the data files, the data logs, where it's upgraded, uploaded. Those show 4 spikes that total 384,000 votes in a combined interval of 2 hours and 38 minutes. So those.
Why is that not possible? Because they're not running 300,000 ballots through that quickly. That's just machines around the entire state. So if you have the city of Detroit with 250,000, obviously Detroit came in later, but hypothetically, there's big cities in Michigan, big precincts, and they start filing at the same time. It seems like it's actually quite logical that you would have a lot coming in a short amount of time. And so as a political candidate, and I watch the numbers in, come in, usually there's nothing, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of spikes. Oh, we got City Capital, we got Gates Township, you start seeing things come in. I don't think that's proof of the fraud or anything. I think that's just how it works. Am I missing something here?
So if you look at the total number of machines, and the machines can count about 2,000 ballots per hour per machine, the calculation sum would yield about 100,000 ballots is the maximum number of ballots that could be processed.
But they're not processing that ballot in the time frame. They've been processing those ballots all day long. They are just uploading the total number at that time.
They're actually uploaded at various intervals along that timeline throughout the day.
So, wait, say that again?
They're uploading those results at various, across the timeline throughout the day.
So I don't think that's accurate. I don't think they upload results until after everything is done. And that's actually a pretty big deal. And Republican, we actually have been very clear. You don't start reporting the ballots until everything is done, everything is closed out. So I don't think that's actually accurate. If that is accurate, that's something we need to look into, that they're continuously uploading the numbers throughout the day. But that's not my understanding.
Yeah, so if you look, the Edison data provides the New York Times, it shows pretty much a continual upload throughout the day. And then there are spikes that occur at specific times that are uploads that I can provide to you.
The question is, did you give us that? I know you gave us a packet, that's not it.
It should be the affidavit that I provided to you.
Did he answer your question? Okay. Next, we'll go to Representative Camilleri.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, this seems like he's going for a real stretch here. It feels like what he's saying is that, oh, well, it should just be a steady incline up, and instead there are some spikes. And well, it's like, well, but wouldn't it spike for some of these large areas?
Representative LeFevre.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. If you and I agree on the thing you were just talking about, that could be a real problem. Something different. But Colonel, I've got, tell me if I'm wrong, 10 precincts, in the state you believe voted at 100% approximately?
That was according to data from the state, yes, sir.
6 precincts at above 100%?
Correct.
Add those up for me. About how many votes is that?
We just looked at voter turnout, so I didn't add up the votes from those ones.
I think you could send me an email. Let me know the total number of votes there.
Well, why don't you, we'll have them send it to the committee. We'll work with that. We can send it to the clerk. Continue, Rep. Lefebvre. Did he answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, and I wanted to, we had talked about Dominion. Was there something that you wanted to discuss about Dominion? I understand that perhaps you examined these machines. I know for us, we can't get Dominion to come in and testify, and one thing that I would like to do is examine the machines to understand, because my belief is that if we could look at the machines, if we could examine their software, we'd have a good idea then of whether all this stuff is true or not. But the problem that I have is that because Dominion won't come in, they won't testify, they won't provide us machines, they won't do these things. It's hard for me to wrap around this Dominion theory, because basically we're going off of what people are saying, and we're hearing nothing from Dominion. So, you know, as we're investigating, I think that would be very valuable to us, but from what I understand, you've looked at this. So what can you tell us about the Dominion voting system?
We began looking at these companies, as I mentioned, the team that we joined to begin studying this back in 2018 after the Kentucky governor's race, and then several races in Texas with the ES&S machines. We really started looking at the lineage of these companies and the code of the software. And they really seem all to go back to Smartmatic, SGO Smartmatic. They do have licensure agreements between Smartmatic and Dominion, between Smartmatic and ES&S, which is another major voting machine. And really the core of these voting systems are rife with vulnerabilities. I was an information warfare officer, so I looked at ways to penetrate, defeat, corrupt other systems, whether it was through electronic warfare, through other means. And these systems are highly vulnerable to penetrations at multiple levels throughout the system. The easiest way and the most discrete way is USB drives. In classified systems in the military, I worked with both secret and top secret and other special access programs.
Now, I have no doubt that it's probably fairly easy to hack one of these things. But again, what they're alleging here would require a massive amount of, like, conspiracy to, like, sneak USB drives into these machines without being caught on the cameras, and, like, this isn't what's happening. Like, you would be able to find, like, evidence of this on camera. There are cameras in these areas.
All those machines had the USB drives deactivated. You could not use them just because of the critical vulnerability. These machines all work off of USB drives, and so we found in dealing with Pennsylvania and Arizona, there is no control, there is no chain of custody in the USB drives. Workers can stick a USB drive in, we can stick a USB drive in any of your laptops, you don't know what's on there, and you can change software, you can change operating systems with USB drives. And the core of these systems is manipulability. This is the operator's manual, the implementation statement.
Okay, so again, we've now gone from there were some weird counting things, and like when the times these votes were uploaded, to now he's saying that there has been a coordinated deep state attack where poll workers at this station may or may not have been using USBs to upload criminal software onto these things. And he's saying it without, like, any shred of evidence of that? I mean, I have no doubt that he's accurate when it comes to, like, USBs being a threat to these machines, but alleging the amount of effort that would go into manipulating these things across the state? Yeah, I'm going to call some bullshit on this one.
For 5.1, one of the myths that has been propagated even by the director of CISA at Homeland Security, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, is that, well, these machines are not connected to the internet. In the operator's manual, there's a whole page of references to show you how and when to connect and what selectors to connect to servers and to routers, so it is connected to the internet. That's how you get election night reporting. That's through another company called Clarity Elections. They provide early reporting to the news media. Matter of fact, as I was looking at one of the counties where I saw the spike, it was Oakland County. I was going through the Oakland County, the 2020 elections results, and I clicked on the election results, and a warning flag that pops up to the right side, and it says, "You're leaving this domain. You're going to ClarityElections./mi." So the information for the counties in your state,
he cracked the code.
Isn't really maintained or owned by your county and state, but rather a corporation that's owned by SOE Software and Scytl, SCYTL, which is a Madrid, Spain corporation. It went bankrupt in May of 2020 and was purchased by another UK registered company. So
we recently found, and we're digging further, that there was a $400 million financial transaction to Dominion Voting Systems in October, 1 month before our election. We're digging into that, but we know through some of the leaked information from the Panama Bank.
Who is we?
That,
Again, I keep having to ask this.
A physical address in a small building in Barbados is registered headquarters. So these companies share licensing agreements. They share a common core of their DNA is the code, is the software. And I'll be happy to provide you an electronic copy of this operator's manual. And when you read through here, you can see all the options that administrators and operators of these systems have. Like some of the previous witnesses mentioned, they can assign, they can vote blank ballots, they can delete data, they can mass adjudicate write-in ballots. So it is designed to be inaccurate. It's designed to, if an individual or a team of individuals had a malign purpose, this would be the tool that I would want to use.
Can I ask you?
Tell me the history of Smartmatic. When did it start? Where did it start?
Smartmatic.
What was it developed to do?
Smartmatic was designed, developed in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez was president, and basically he invested, I believe, 28% of the money of the fund to control Venezuelan elections. I personally debriefed the son of a Cuban intelligence officer who was at dinner with two of Hugo Chavez's relatives when Maduro's election was in question due to populist uprising in Venezuela, and they told him, the son of the Cuban intelligence officer, don't worry, it's guaranteed. Our father invested the money to start.
Oh no, we're gonna get
Have
something
they been
new.
involved in numerous elections that have been questioned as to the integrity of the election?
Numerous elections in
Vuvuzela,
South Pacific,
indeed.
Are they aligned with Dominion?
Well, at least in Barbados. The Dominion software, so that where the merger of the DNA comes, there's a licensing agreement, and as a result of a lawsuit, Sequoia Voting Systems was sold off of SGO and purchased by
Who owns Sequoia?
SGO Smartmatic on Sequoia. They sold Sequoia Voting Systems to Dominion Voting Systems, and they also purchased Premier as a result of an antitrust. So all of the DNA and the code and the software in these machines are very, very similar. As a matter of fact, there's testimony on the House floor as late as July of 2019 that decries that
I'm just a country lawyer.
Full hold. My team is doing analysis all over the country right now. We can't keep the demand because there's so much. But there was about a 40-page document with the vulnerabilities.
It turns out capitalism is a problem. Yeah.
Across the party, across the aisle, there have been Democratic senators, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Warren, as well as Republicans. So this is an American issue. This is a national security issue. Our voting systems are defined as national critical infrastructure, just as critical as nuclear power plants, just as critical as petrochemical, steel, and ports.
What's fractional voting?
Can I ask? I'm going to ask a question here. So I just wanted to understand why. So when we hear these things, they say in the press, they say this has been debunked, right? Every time I read about this, they say this has been debunked.
It's fake news.
Please, we don't want to have to remove anybody, and I'm serious. We're not supposed to yell out here. But let me ask you. When you hear that, why do you think they're saying that? Because we do hearings like this. For many people, this is the only time they hear testimony like yours. But why are they saying that it's debunked? Do you have a theory on that?
I have a theory in life, and it's about people and personal behavior. It's either a variable of competence or a variable of commitment. In this case, they would be either incompetent. They haven't done the research like I and my team have done. They haven't looked through the user's manual of these systems. They haven't rationally thought that okay, these election votes are updated in real time. How does that happen? Nobody's getting in from a car from Lansing, Michigan, and driving to New York to be uploaded at the Rockefeller Center. So these are connected. And actually, in the operating diagrams of the systems, the high-level block diagrams, is Democracy Suite. It shows Democracy EMS application and document management server, the Democracy Suite database server, the data center. This is data. This is electronic data. The ballots are put into the machine, and they're turned from a paper ballot to a ballot image. And the ballot image is data, and the data can be manipulated with something as easy as a USB drive.
Thank you. Representative Riley.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to figure out, would not a recount detect if you had a software manipulate the votes? Would that be easily seen?
So what we observed, and your other witnesses tonight observed, is a injection of paper ballots. Whether those are accurate or not, you could recount the manual ballots, but unless you did a forensic audit of the ballot itself, you wouldn't be able to tell if the ballot was fraudulent or pre-printed. We have technology to be able to do that. The gentleman that associated with in Texas, his name is Johan Pulitzer. He invented the QR code and scanner and scanning capabilities, owns a patent on all that. He devised a way to determine fake ballots or ballots who were pre-printed.
But isn't that another issue altogether? I'm just talking about.
This is a multifaceted issue, but yes, the forensics data, if you have access to the software code that was driving the algorithms in these machines, and I say algorithm because the data that's the raw feed of the data is reported in decimal places. So if you're tabulating votes, your vote, my vote, Representative Johnson's votes, well, that's 3 votes. This data is reported in 3-digit fractions. So how is that possible in an additive function? So the software and the code is what we would need, or a qualified forensics team of your choice would need to look at to determine what algorithms were in the USB drives that drive the machines. And the number pattern that we see is that they would pick 3 to 4 precincts, they would run the algorithm for X amount of time.
Okay, so all he's really saying is like, man, this data looks kind of weird, and I don't understand it. And he's also just saying, I don't actually know if anything bad happened. We would need to look at the raw data. So he doesn't know. Again, like, when with all of these people, they talk for like 3 hours. They talk for 3 hours, and essentially it just boils down to, I don't know, we'd need more data. This is a hearing. You're supposed to be presenting like evidence. You're supposed to be telling your story of like how you know there's wrongdoing happening, but you don't.
Until they got close to the precinct threshold, so it wouldn't kick off the overvote situation, and then they would move it to another precinct. So this is a complex issue with injection. In Pennsylvania, we heard a gentleman who again signed an affidavit, as a truck driver, that he delivered a truckload of ballots to a vacant lot in Pennsylvania from New York, and his assumption was the ballots were just left there. There was no one there.
I'm with this lady up here who's like, let's put these motherfuckers under oath. Like, like, come on now. We put these fucks under oath. Let's see if their stories stay the same. I'm really curious to see if their bravado goes out the window when they can be held responsible for perjury, okay?
They're assigned bill of lading to give bill of lading. So the hypothesis or the assumption is that was used as a staging area for people to go pick up pre-printed ballots to move into the system, or, for example, what we saw in some of the...
Wait, why is this your assumption? What? So he's just like, so logically it means that we figured that there's this area where they were picking up pre-printed ballots, and wait, what? Why are you assuming that though? Why is that the most logical solution to this?
Absentee numbers in Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on. Thank you for your testimony today. We appreciate it. And now we're going to invite up one more person, Monica Palmer. Who's a Wayne County canvasser, if I understand right. And then we'll let you testify for a couple minutes, tell your story, and then we'll let the Trump legal team close after that. We ran a little long on that first witness, and we wanted to give some deference there because obviously she had been, she'd been through a lot, and she really shared a very powerful story. And you could tell, I mean, it's intimidating to come here to the legislature to deal with what she's dealt with. But we appreciate that she came to tell her story. We wanted to give her some time. But we wanted to also allow you, Monica, to come in and testify. So when you're ready, please.
Oh yeah, Redmond, absolutely.
Why you're here? Thank you. Make sure you push the red button.
Thank you, Chairman Hall and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. I am Monica Palmer. I am the chair of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers. As you may be aware, after the primary, we had 76% of the precincts, the absentee precincts in the city of Detroit were unrecountable because they were out of bounds without explanation. We had bipartisan support in a request for an investigation by the State Bureau of Elections, and we requested the Secretary of State to assist with administering the general election in November in the city of Detroit for the absentees. After the primary, when we had the 76% of out-of-bounds precincts, I had people question me, Monica, is it fraud or is it human error? And at that point, I didn't know because I've never witnessed the process before. So election night, 9 p.m., November 3rd, I went down to TCF Center. I was credentialed as a GOP.
Already, there's a problem. She's never seen the process before. Keep that in mind.
Challenger, and I went in to observe the process, hoping to see some improvements being made. I did not challenge anything while I was there. I was strictly there to observe. I did note one thing, the ballot containers, the metal boxes that hold the ballots once everything's sealed up at the end of the evening. The Board of Canvassers, the County Board of Canvassers are responsible on an incremental basis to touch and feel and make sure that those ballot containers are secure. And they're labeled with a sticker that says this container is certified and it's got the signatures of the board members on it. As I was walking through TCF Center, I located 5 ballot containers that had red "do not use" labels on them. They were damaged. They were new containers that were ordered. They had manufacturing defects. The weld on the back seal, the seal on the welding on the back side was not completed properly, and you could slide paper in and out of the back of boxes. Those containers that were used with the red labels will not be recountable. The chain of custody has been broken for those boxes. I was at TCF Center for 26 hours straight. I got there 9 o'clock election night. I left around 11 p.m. Wednesday evening after counting had been completed. They were working on closing up the poll books. There's a lot of other testimony from challengers that can describe the activities that happened there. I won't waste your time with that. I want to move on to the canvass. We had gone through the initial canvass of about 20% of the absentee county boards and realized that the number of voters in the poll book, so people cast, did not match the number on the tabulator tape, ballots cast. It is the job of the canvass, the county canvass, to correct any mathematical errors, to make those two numbers balance or reconcile the difference. The good news here is that the batches of ballots that may have been scanned multiple times, the job of the canvass is to catch that mathematical error and correct it. So if you have 100 voters, 100 ballots that were issued, and there's 300 ballots that were tabulated, you count the ballots in the box, it should match the ballots that were issued, 100, 100. You retabulate them, and that's corrected. Things you cannot catch in the ballot, in the canvas. You cannot catch date stamps on envelopes. You cannot catch the validity of a voter, whether they're dead or not. You cannot catch signature verification. Those are things we do not look at within the canvas. This is a little point of reference to help you manage through the details you're hearing. An observation for TCF Center. In the primary, we had workers, poll workers working long hours. There appeared to be a change in the November general election where there were shifts of employees, and I believe that was a positive change. It was good to see. So you didn't have people very, very, very tired trying to close these boxes out. What I did notice on the night shift, election night, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next morning, there were 134 counting boards. They had 5 workers at each table and supervisors throughout. The majority of that shift, those workers were not processing ballots. They were sitting idle. So as you're looking forward to legislation and concerns about do we need more time to process these ballots, the time is not involved in actually going through the ballots or scanning them through the tabulators. It's the adjudication process. And the adjudication process is a screen. If there's a ballot that the machine can't read, two humans have to view that ballot on a screen and make a determination. That process is the bottleneck in the timeline that it took to get through processing the absentee ballots in Detroit. So as you move forward with potential legislation, maybe look at some funding sources to get the right amount of equipment to help them get through that. Back to the canvas and the numbers not matching. 20% into processing the absentee ballots, we realized we had a large portion that did not match. And it's standard procedure to contact the clerk when you have that happen, to ask if they have any envelopes that may not be scanned, if they have anything stuck in an auxiliary bin, ask them for a corrected list if possible. We did not get corrected statement of voters, so people cast, until 13 days after the election. It was the afternoon, the day before certification, when a large black tote was brought into the canvas containing multiple precincts, new voter lists. Some of those voter lists managed to make the balances work out. At the end of the day, less than 24 hours later, the canvas was given a verbal report for the plus and minus. We were not provided with an executive summary written, even though I requested one. And that oral report, my quick math showed that 71% of the counting boards, and we've got to be careful because in the primary we were talking precincts, now we're talking counting boards, which are the different math formula. But 71% of those counting boards were unexplained were unbalanced without explanation. Having less than 24 hours to get corrected voter lists and going through 134 counting boards to make those differences is not a lot of time. And that is why I originally voted no on the certification, because I believe the state needed 10 more days to continue to dig through that to find those explanations. As you continue to move forward through legislation, with the information I was getting, I can't tell if there was an issue with missing scanning envelopes, if there's an issue with the voter file, with the poll books, with the supplemental lists, with the unlisted list. I don't have that information to be able to know to tell you how to fix that. But getting corrected information 13 days after the election is not the way to go about it. And one more item to note, in the State Board of Canvassers meeting, Daniel Baxter said that they did not issue any revised poll lists. I don't know if he was misinformed or misspoke, but there were clearly an entire tote of revised lists delivered the day before certification. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and due to time, if you have additional questions, please reach out to me afterwards.
All right, thank you, Monica. Now, I heard stories about how you were threatened and bullied and attacked by a lot of these radical left-wing people, and so I have my sympathies for that. And you have my sympathies for that. I know you've been through a lot, and it's courageous way to be here.
Yes, she's been attacked by the radical left.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service on Board of Canvassers. My question is, do you have any recommendations for this committee of the legislature with regard to empowering Board of Canvassers to maybe have a more substantial role in the process going forward? I know, reading some of the media reports, you seem kind of frustrated with the limitation of what you could and could do in the canvas.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. The Board of Canvassers across the state of Michigan, most of the other boards in the other counties, the board canvassers are the ones going through every poll book and looking at the number of voters and the number on the tape. Wayne County is huge, and it has different rules because there's so much work, or people wouldn't be able to complete it. The county clerk staff is assisting the Wayne County Board of Canvassers. And I've only been on the board for 2 years. I roll up my sleeves and get involved, and I'm going through poll books with staff to help understand the process. I think if I'm going to certify this election, attesting that it's valid, I need to know what's going on. My understanding is that Wayne County operating differently has not been involved in the actual processing process that much. But in return, I think maybe what you might have been asking was more authority for the Board of Canvassers, because we have no control over what the clerk does. We have no control over the Secretary of State. We have no authority to demand an audit. We have no authority to tell anyone how to change their processes. But at the end of the day, we're holding the bag for whatever results come out of the election.
Thank you. Representative Camilleri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. I also first want to say thank you for doing your job and certifying the election. I really appreciate that. One thing that I would like for us to just clarify here, as we know, the unbalanced precincts are not unique. It's not unique this election. It happened in other elections in years past. The rate of unbalanced precincts in Detroit and cities like Livonia were roughly the same. So why did we have such a focus from your public statements as well as others that you've made to the media and at your Board of Canvassers meeting? Why was the focus specifically on Detroit's unbalanced precincts and not more so on other cities like the city of Livonia?
I was not given a written executive summary prior to the meeting. If you watch the Zoom call, staff was listing off communities, plus or minus in or out of balance. They're referred to Detroit or out of county. Livonia was specifically brought up because there were some troubles there. But when you're referencing out of county and Detroit, it's already separated into two different groups. I was doing the math on fly, scribbling, and referenced the percentage, comparing it to the primary, because we already had identified that there was an issue that we were hoping to see some improvements in. The actual motion that came to certify the election, that came with a resolution for an audit, requested an audit of all of Wayne County, all of the unbalanced, unexplained precincts, not just the city of Detroit. It did get heated after the no vote, and there was some hostility from board member comments, there was some pressure from council. I did initially reference Detroit first. A few sentences later, I did bring up Livonia as well. I was not singling out one community. This is about making sure that we have accurate documentation that can be audited and that there's explanations, and that's what I was trying to accomplish. Thank you.
And I understand, like in Livonia, and this might not be related, but in Livonia, I heard, because we had a state house race there that was pretty close, a couple hundred votes. And then what I understand happened is that somehow they can't recount most of the precincts. Can you explain that?
Sure. So if you have 103 ballots that are issued, people cast. If you have 3 individuals who spoil their ballot, they make a mistake and they take it and they say, I need a new ballot. So you issue another one. So now you have 106 ballots that have been issued. You only have 103 that are counted, and you have 3 ballots that are in an envelope for spoiled ballots. 106 does not equal 103, but there are notes in the poll book and there are spoiled ballots that you can reconcile the difference. They're out of balance, it's a normal occurrence, not a problem. The problem is when you have 106 ballots cast, people, and you've got 135 in your total for the votes for the night. And there's no explanation in the poll books how you get there, it's not recountable, and that is a problem. And specifically to your point, in Livonia, where you've got a state house race, when you have communities that have a high number of precincts that are unexplained, that's not recountable, it's going to hurt the recount for your mayor, your city council, the school board members. In Highland Park, the last time we had a recount in there, it was a city council recount, and half the precincts couldn't be recounted. We had an entire community in there hoping to see the numbers and make sure it was right. And the candidate was distraught when she filed it to have all the precincts recounted and half of them couldn't be recounted. We've got to figure out how to get it right.
Yeah, I think just for me, that's always something I found very odd is, like for many years, we have elections, and then they say, well, we can't recount Detroit, or we can't recount Wayne County, because they say either the boxes are unsealed or the ballots don't add up. Was that widespread in Wayne County this time? Or was it limited to Livonia, or what?
Again, if I had a written executive summary that showed me every precinct for the entire county, I could have prepared and highlighted and went, these 15 communities outside of Detroit all had problems. I don't have that. I still don't have that report.
Wow. Now what is being, in Wayne County, which is where you can speak to, do you know, why does this sort of thing happen election after election? And maybe it happens elsewhere, but you're the Wayne County canvasser, so I just want to understand, as a canvasser, what do you say to the elections people when they tell you this year again, the ballot boxes are unsealed, the ballots don't add up? What do you say to them? Because I can't figure it out. Why is it always that way? What do you say to them to prove that? Please,
this is a big show. This is a big motivation.
sir.
Please read the from the
Please, sir.
They're not paying attention.
Please, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir.
There's a big
All
smoke here.
right, so my question though is, on Wayne County and the city of Detroit, do you hear from them to say, what are they going to do to stop this from happening in the future, so we can recount these precincts? And there is a trail.
We made that request after the primary.
And what happened?
I have not seen a report from the investigation. I saw lots of press releases from Secretary Benson saying that she was going to help with staff. And
Yeah,
it did look like there was
it's almost like
plenty of
these
staff
people
around
are,
PCSM, so that appeared to be an improvement.
not full-time employees.
I asked for a meeting with
Weird.
President Lee prior to the election to try to understand the process a little bit better, to see what kind of improvements were being made. I did not receive a meeting with her before the election.
So would you say that these election officials in Wayne County are not following the laws there?
I can't say that. I don't know that to be true.
But they're not communicating well. Would that be right to say they're not communicating what they're doing to why these problems are still happening with you as a canvasser?
I have no authority over that position. The clerk is not required to communicate with me.
Yeah, that seems like a problem.
Yeah, and
Sure, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know the answer to that. We'll go now to Representative Riley.
Thank you. When it comes to the precincts that don't balance, is there a quantity that we know? Is that public knowledge?
that don't balance unexplained.
No,
The being out of balance, if it's explained, it's okay, it's recountable.
okay, but do we know the quantity when something is not balanced? Do we know the quantity of votes?
I believe, I asked for a cumulative total, because we have some that are higher and some that are lower. And the verbal number that was given to me during the canvassers meeting, I believe was around 400. But again, if I had a written executive summary that showed me every precinct that was plus or minus, there would be a total at that bottom of the page, and we could look at it real easy.
Okay, thank you.
Representative C.A. Johnson.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do, and thank you for your vote.
Please, let's let her ask questions.
Mr. Chair, when we get a chance, I'd like to have this kind of even because we have a Detroiter.
Representative, I think you made that point earlier, and as I said, we're going to have more hearings, but what is your question?
No, I would like to have her address this body. Okay, she is a Detroit.
We're gonna move on, Representative, if you don't have a question. I'll go now to Representative Johnson, Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You talked about getting a number of revised poll books. Could you explain what that is? I'm not a elections guy.
Sure.
Explain it. Thank you.
Okay, in your poll book, there is a section that's the statement of voters. So for the absentees.
Yeah,
there's
so
no
they're
absentee
talking about 400
ballots that were
votes
issued,
now.
Requested, issued, and received. And you can see the dates in there for every person. There's a total at the bottom. So on election, I believe it was Sunday that the poll books were printed. So all of the ballots that were received by Sunday when they were printed are in this list. There's a supplemental list for any ballots received after that. Okay, because you've got ballots coming in on election day while they're being processed. You add those two together, once the polls are closed and you've got your total number of ballots received on election day, you add those two numbers together, and that should be the total of ballots that you have sitting. If they don't match, your phone call is to the clerk and say, why don't they match? Do you have envelopes that didn't sitting on your desk that didn't get scanned? There is a method of going through the entire pile of envelopes to make sure every single one of them is scanned, and it does take some time. But in order to be able to make mathematical corrections, how do you know, is my list of voters right, or is my number of ballots right? So you try to get, if there's any updates that need to be made to that list of voters, you try to make sure you've got that correct number.
I do have to say, this lady seems like she knows what she's talking about, and it does. I genuinely feel with her frustration over like the communication issues, but I think I like her testimony is not leading me to like massive widespread conspiracy where people are printing off fake ballots to stuff into the ballot box. This isn't what her testimony is leading me towards, unlike the other testimonies. Okay.
That does help. Now, is it possible for someone to, let's say we're doing an investigation audit, can we see the original poll book as well as the revised version, or is only the revised version?
My understanding is that staff retains the original list and the revised list.
Thank you.
Yes.
Representative LeGrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So help me understand this, because I've been involved in recounts in my county, and we have exactly, this issue is pretty much universal. Like this question of ratios change, but like nobody has 100% balanced precincts. And we were testifying in committee about that previously. My understanding was that you could recount if your tabulated number equals the number of people ballots, not that it has to equal full. Am I wrong on that? And if that's true, then I think you can recount a whole lot more than 71. You're saying 70% of them roughly can be counted?
Yeah,
I don't think that's right.
My understanding is that the votes, the people cast must match the votes cast. And then, once you open it up, you count the paper ballots, and the paper ballots have to match the ballots cast.
Correct, but then that makes that recountable. In other words, if there's a tension with the poll at that point, it doesn't make that an unrecountable precinct.
But in order to open the seal, my understanding is that they have to match.
Okay, that's not my understanding, but there's no point in us debating since neither one of us, that would feel a higher authority on that.
Thank
But
you.
it's not my understanding of what it was.
Thank you, Representative. All right, that's what the questions we have, so thank you for coming today. Oh, no, Representative Lefebvre, sorry, I'm keeping we've had so many people testify, I have so many tallies, so I missed that one. So Representative Lefebvre, thanks for waiting, please, when you're ready, ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talk about big boxes, the big metal boxes that have the stamp of approval or not by the Board of Canvassers. What are these boxes? What are they for? How big are they? This is multiple questions, I'm sorry. Tell me about the boxes, how big they are, how many ballots there are, potentially in each one of them, and what they're for.
So the boxes are about this tall, about this wide. There was a batch of 50 new boxes purchased by the City of Detroit from Election Source, and roughly 30 of those boxes were defective. They're metal, and there's two sides that meet along the back, and the welds were not done properly, so there's a gap along the back seam. We rejected about 30 of those. Sometime before the November election, they did bring us some repair containers, and we went through them and then took the red do not use tags off and put certified labels on those. But if I remember correctly, there were only 24, and I could be off by 1 or 2, 24 that came.
How do you buy all of these ballot boxes and 30 of them be defected? Like, defective. How is that possible? Your job is just to build a metal box. Shouldn't be that hard.
Back for here. As to how many ballots were in those containers, I would have to ask staff. I would maybe look online. I have the precinct number, or the absentee county board numbers, but I don't have the associated ballot counts with those counties. Does that answer all of your questions?
Well, I only get one, so I would just like to say, I mean, if you buy 50 boxes and 30 of them are defective, let's never buy from that company.
All right, thank you, Monica, that's the last question for you, we appreciate you coming to testify, thank you. All right, with that, Mr. Giuliani, we'll let you make your, any closing remarks you have, and it is an hour over what I said it was going to be. Sorry about that, everybody. But we wanted to hear these people. I know that many feel that these people haven't been heard, and so we wanted to provide an opportunity for people to bring forward their stories and be heard. And we tried to do that today. As did the Senate, I think, yesterday very well, the Senate Oversight Committee. But we wanted to offer you an opportunity to speak, and then I will let each member ask you a question. All right. So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this represents the affidavits of the witnesses.
I'll make sure that Bob's question. Thanks.
This represents the affidavits of the people that we didn't get a chance to call. There are hundreds of them, and they specifically alleged similar acts of fraud, very similar to the witnesses that you heard. I find it puzzling that there seems to be such confusion about it. Maybe because of my background as a prosecutor, it's pretty obvious to me what happened here. The Democratic leader in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or in Philadelphia, or in Detroit, or in Las Vegas, or in Phoenix, or in Milwaukee, or in Minneapolis, or Atlanta.
Yeah, there were no allegations of fraud.
Election morning,
Yeah.
when all those mail ballots were going to come in.
Just
decided we're going to shut out all the Republican
implications of
for as many
fraud,
as we can.
I guess.
I mean, we've been counting absentee ballots forever. I did it myself when I was a young lawyer. Republican sits on one side, Democrat sits on the other side. We don't have any problem with it. This was uniform shutting out of as many Republicans as possible. In Pennsylvania, 890,000 ballots were cast secretly, with no Republican getting a chance to take a look at the ballot. And in Pennsylvania, there are 600,000 more votes counted, mail votes counted, than mail ballots taken from. This is a swindle. It's a con job. It's a theft of an election. And it was carried out by the same method in the city of Detroit. And with all due respect to Detroit, several analyses of corrupt cities. My city, New York, comes out of Detroit. So I'm not saying this with any pride. But it happens to be one of the most corrupt cities in the United States. On any measure, I just checked online here. It comes in 4th, 5th, 3rd, 7th, 8th. Sometimes New York comes in ahead. So I wonder why the confusion about what happened. They stole the election. Not the first one they stole. Not the last one they're going to steal. Let's do something about it. We can do something real. Not, let's see how we're going to fix it. We've been fixing it for years. It hasn't gotten fixed. They've been stealing elections for years. And this time, they got a chance to steal it really big because of the ridiculous mail ballot that was created. Back in 1960, the mayor of Chicago, the most corrupt city in America, by the way, just in case, on all the lists, by far, we can all feel better. Chicago's the most corrupt. He helped to steal the 1960 election by holding back the ballots in Chicago so the Republican ballots would come in, and then along with
Good night,
Tony
Disco
Martin and James
Rat.
Kahn, they got the ballots they needed to elect their candidate. Last year, 2 years ago in Florida,
I like that his example has to go back to 1960, literally 60 years ago.
happened in Palm Beach and Broward County. It was a 2-point election, Senate, Governor. Palm Beach County took 2.5 weeks to report. And finally it ended when they caught a truck, like the one coming from Bayport, New York, to Philadelphia. They caught a truck in Jacksonville, headed to Palm Beach, with 100,000 ballots that pretended to be Palm Beach ballots, but they were done up in Jacksonville. And then they had to end the election, and they prosecuted the people in Palm Beach. And remember, this year, we had no problem in Florida. I mean, you were counting for eternity. Florida was over with that night, because the governor had the courage to straighten it out. He had the courage to prosecute the people who committed the fraud. You don't end fraud by prospective measures to deal with fraud. You know how you end fraud? You put
Yeah, again, Donald Trump's administration put together a committee to investigate fraud, and they couldn't find anything. They had to quietly close the commission, and they tried to hide the findings, and it was only revealed via Freedom of Information Act in 2018 that voter fraud is such a non-issue in this country that even people who claim that it is a threat to our democracy can't prove that it happens.
criminals in jail. You have the courage to say that certification that was done by your state is a complete phony. It was a false statement made to the United States government. Those are prosecutable, by the way. That's not the vote by any means in Michigan. That's not the vote in Michigan. I don't know what the vote in Michigan is, but it's at least 300,000 or 400,000 votes off from what the real vote in Michigan is. And you heard the anger and the upset of your citizens. They seem to have more passion about it than you do. They figured out what happened because they live on the street. They know what happens in Detroit. Don't scratch your head about what happens in Detroit. They steal elections in Detroit, and they steal elections in New York, and they steal elections in Boston, and they steal elections in Philadelphia. And the Democrats were smart enough to pick 10 corrupt cities to play their game out. 10 cities in which they can get away with it. 10 cities in which they can go into court and find a hack judge that will decide anything they want. So, I mean, we can live in the strange world all we want, but we're getting to the point where our freedoms are beginning to be eroded. Our right of free speech has been eroded substantially by the censorship imposed by big tech, big media, big corporations, and the Democrat Party. Our right of freedom of religion, with the ridiculous dictatorial way in which the COVID regulations are imposed on us, they like to be dictators, these Democrat governors.
Yeah, we don't have our freedom of religion anymore. They don't want us to get together in close groups and breathe on each other. It means we can't worship our omnipotent, omniscient God, who's everywhere. We can't get into these specific buildings where we have to be around each other and expose each other to dangerous pandemic germs.
They're taking away our right of freedom of religion. Those are basically the two reasons we founded this country. Oh, by the way, there was a third. The right to freely and honestly elect our government. And they're taking that away from us, too. It should not go without notice. And you should spend time taking a look at Pennsylvania. Look at Philadelphia. Look at Pittsburgh. Look at how eerily similar it is to what these people testified to. Read the rest of these and see that there are hundreds of people that back them up. That election in Detroit was a disgrace. You should be ashamed of it as citizens of Michigan. I would be ashamed of it if it was in New York. And it could easily be
Exactly, Redmond.
And I would do everything in my power to make sure it never happened again. And I would never certify an election or have my name associated with anything that was false. Now, it is your responsibility to do that. Not the governor, not the Secretary of State. You were given that responsibility by our founding fathers. They decided who would be the final arbiter, who should overlook a presidential election.
All right, Rudy, let's put all your witnesses under oath then, huh? Let's put your witnesses under oath and see what happens.
And in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the power is given to you. In the McPherson case of 1892, the United States Supreme Court made clear that you can take that power back any time you want to. Yes. Anytime. You can take it back tonight. You can take it back the day before the electors go down to Washington. You can take it back any time you want. And in case you think it's old law, it was reiterated in Bush v. Gore. You have the right to take it back. You are the final arbiter of how honest or not your election is in your state. And it's your responsibility to stand up to that. And all I can tell you is, we let him get away with this. I don't know what happens after this. This was a concerted plan to fix this election. There's no way that
None of what was said in this entire hearing was shown to be in any way a concerted effort. This is absolutely false. Guys, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to sit down and watch this entire hearing, because again, if this was the best they had. This was the best evidence they had, and it was nothing. It was nothing. This was the best they had. Like, they have hundreds of other people. These were the 3 people that were the best of the best. They have nothing. All of the evidence that they allege, all of the groundbreaking witnesses they have, all of the recordings, all of it. It amounts to nothing. It amounts to, well, I didn't like the process, or I saw some things that I disagree with, but I'm not entirely sure of the process, or people were mean to me. And you know what? Like, yeah. Yeah, where is the revelation of this evil cabal that has been able to corrupt the election process across 7 states that just happen to be the pivotal ones in which Trump needs to win in order to secure the election? Yeah. Democrats committed ballot fraud just so Joe Biden wins. Not they didn't commit enough fraud so that they won the Senate, and they also didn't do enough fraud to keep their seats in the House. But there was an evil cabal at work here.
Donald Trump was ahead by 800,000 votes going to bed at night. Then he was ahead here by 300,000 votes. Then he was ahead in Wisconsin by 400,000 votes. Then he was ahead in every state that over a 4 or 5 day period, with this ridiculously corrupt system of counting, they turned around with ballots coming in the back door. Ballots being driven down from New York. There's no way that this wasn't stolen. And what it takes is courage. Yeah. Courage. Not to be afraid of what's happened to these poor people. They've got guts. Yeah. To stand up to what the Democrats do to them. And it's not just the wild and crazy left-wing Democrats who do it. They do it as a way of bullying us. You can see their behavior in this hearing. I can see the difference in behavior between 2 sides. Maybe sometimes we're too nice. Maybe sometimes we're too decent. Well, maybe we shouldn't change. But one thing we should have is the ability to defend ourselves and not let our people get kicked around.
What, you're being too nice and too decent? What does that mean? Does that mean you want to take this guy out back and shoot him? Do you want to take this woman out and beat her up? What does it mean that you're being too nice?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
I asked the crowd.
Who are these Rudy Giuliani stands?
No respect for cheaters, no respect for cheaters. Please, we're having a legislative hearing here. So, I've said all members of this committee, if they wish, can ask a question. I hope we're respectful about that. So, With that, Representative LeGrand.
So, Mr. Giuliani, I really just have one question for you. We heard testimony tonight that you got an affidavit from one of these witnesses on November 8th, witness who talked about tens of thousands of ballots being ripped through a machine. We had another witness who talked about ballots being double counted, who said that her affidavit dates back to November 3rd. You opened your statement, in your opening statement, you referenced 700,000 fraudulent ballots in Detroit. It was problematic, it was only 250,000 counted. My question is, given that we have paper ballots in the machine, why on earth did you not ask for a recount?
Well, there'd be no reason to ask for a recount, because you just recount the same fraudulent ballots. Once you have separated the envelope from the absentee ballot or mail-in ballot, you are forever unable to audit them. That's the reason why it is so critical that they be inspected. That's the reason why, from time immemorial, that's been done and honored by both political parties, and honored in the breach by your political party this time, nationwide.
71%.
There is no way, when they recounted in Atlanta, they just recounted all the same fraudulent ballots. There's no way to trace those ballots, and that's why the inspection is so critical. And that's why,
Please, let's allow the conversation. Let's stop yelling in the crowd.
And the reality is, if your political party had not bullied, pushed people around, intimidated people, stopped them from doing their job as inspectors, this would not happen.
Thank you. Representative Camilleri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Giuliani, this committee heard testimony from a bipartisan group of county clerks in Michigan. One was a Democrat and two Republicans. They testified that they found no evidence whatsoever of widespread irregularities in this election, and they lauded the municipal clerks and their teams who run elections in Michigan for their tireless effort in committing to free, fair, and safe elections. Your team has now lost 39 court cases in the aftermath of the election, with judges ruling that there is inadequate evidence to support the sweeping claims that you are making and repeating here tonight, and the unprecedented relief that you are seeking. Yesterday, we learned that U.S. Attorney General William Barr has similarly found no evidence whatsoever of widespread irregularities that are worth investigating. If our local clerks, state and federal judges across the country, and the highest-ranking law enforcement official in the United States cannot find any substance to or any merit in any of your arguments.
Oh, come on. What? You got all of it except for the end? Fuck. I feel like I've been blue-balled. I know, what a tease. A 4-hour-long edging.